The hottest month of the year rings in a fiery group of drivers sitting under the Florida sun, looking to write their names first in a brand new page for a brand new season. Where it's live from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway, where GreenFlagTV wishes you a warm welcome to the opening race of the Season 14 Velocity Online Racing IndyCar Series. We are so happy to have you join us on a brand new era of VOR IndyCar Series racing, where alongside Daniel Brouchard in the booth, I am Kenneth. Bueno, Howie, Burroughs bringing us the sights and sounds from virtual South Florida as we kick off season number 14. Well, Daniel, this long-running series has had plenty of history, lots of veteran drivers stepping back into the cockpit of these IRA teams, plenty of new faces as well. But the ultimate goal is the same: try and stand out amongst the crowd, go at it for a championship, and it all starts with this first step here in Homestead.
Well, that's for sure, Kenneth. This is the start of a 14th season for this league. It is a long-running league. Lots of changes this season when it comes to the rookies, who really, some of them shouldn't be rookies, like Vitor Guilherme, who really shouldn't be rookies, won the oval side of things numerous times, but as we've seen on Wednesdays, it's going to be a very interesting series here, especially since it's more ovals than road courses. Only 2 road course races on the schedule this season.
Yeah, we only had 3 last season, season 13, and that was spread across the schedule, so they have opened up the game for the oval drivers, and if you're one of the drivers that wants to stand out, it's going to have to be an oval performance that's going to be rounded well to go at it for a championship this season, in which we've seen plenty of different drivers go at it for the title. But in these final few moments, drivers are putting in their best 3 laps actually in a 5-minute qualifying time. I mean, Homestead Miami Speedway is a unique beast in its own. Mile-and-a-half opened back in 1995 because Ralph Sanchez, track promoter, wanted to stabilize and kind of stimulate the Homestead economy after the devastating effects of Hurricane Andrew. And this speedway is fast. Multiple grooves, different ways to find your way around this racetrack as fast as possible should be the big challenge. And tire wear, big challenge as well.
Well, tire wear is always a factor in these cars. From pretty much as we've seen on Wednesday, tire wear has been the main factor throughout the entirety of the GIC season, and it's going to be even more of a factor here in VOR due to the much longer races that we're running here. 250 laps around here tonight, which my math is not mathing right now, so I don't know how long that is in kilometers or miles. So yeah, anyways, here's Julian Altena, organizer and second place in GIC right now, but he's trying to put down some good laps here, trying to beat Kyle Klendworth, who is currently on top of the board.
And also respective 2-time champion of this series, who last won his championship back in Season 2. So it's frankly been a little while since we've seen the league owner and Julian Altena step at the top step of the podium when it comes down to the end of the season, but hoping, much like the rest of this field, that tonight will be the proper step in the right direction, gain all those points needed to extend the distance to the rest of the field and go at it for the title in season's end. And this is really the only first time in a little while that we have seen Homestead Miami open the entire season. We saw back in season 12, Jesper Orman took the way to the checkered flag. He won back-to-back races in that season, respectively. And it all started here at Homestead, a track that is relatively harder to master, and these drivers trying to put in their qualifying times. So far, 25 twos at the top of the board. Seems like the viable lanes are working, Daniel, very early on, as we'll step to qualifying out and head to the grid.
Well, you've got to get to the grid, focus on those different lanes. There's 2 or 3 lanes that can work here, but in my opinion, I would run the top. That would be the lane I'd run. So anyways, we see I just missed that. But anyways, heading into the warm-up session, or no, this is the race, I think. I don't know. Yeah, race is coming up, so they're all gridding now. And can't wait to get this show on the road as we get ready to look at the starting grid here.
Well, here's the field behind the iRacing official pace car. Let's get you through tonight's starting grid for the opening race of Season 14 of the VOR IndyCar Series here from virtual South Florida. The sky is opened up, and it is Edson Santos, the number 20 car. He'll lead him first from the inside of row number 1. Vitor Guilherme, a Brazilian driver, rookie in this series, making his debut and making a good one from the outside of the front row. Kyle Clenworth, the number 37, will roll off inside of the second row in P3. Nicholas Cressy in the 94 machine will bring his IR18 from the outside of the second row as they chase to turn 1. Shane Cooker in the 32 lines up the finalized drivers of the top 5. Julian Altena saw him a bit in the practice session. He's going to try and go at it for another win, this time from P6. Before you find Yaroslav Donskoy in the 96 car, he'll be 7th. Matthias Strauss in the 28 will be on his outside in 8th. And doubling up for the final row inside the top 10, John Christensen, his number 44, rolls off 9th. And Rodin Eftink making his debut in the number 73 from P10.
Starting in P11, we have Brian Fiolis for Spec 7 Racing Team and Sebastian Kinder for Team Watson Racing. 13th is Marcos Teixeira alongside Jaco Seegers. Well, row 8 in 15th is Gary Lovern and Jordan Hale. In row 9, we have current points favorite for the championship in GIC, Amon Lal, and Fyodor Dovchenko in 18th. Row 19 features Bryce Saucier and Hugo Galaz.
And back in row number 11, you'll find the 21st place driver, Pim Van Gastel, finished 12th in this race last season. Matt Brewer going to be on the outside here in P number 22. Behind them is Milan Vogelsang in the number 26 car. He'll be 23rd. Christian Mokrek in the number 31. He'll be on the outside in P24. Sebastian Dufresne rolls off in his number 78 car from 25th. Aiden Millward, the famous YouTuber for Motorsports, he's in the 67 tonight from 26 on the grid. Before you find Andras Vince in the 85, Dan Ench, his number 52 and 28th. Lucas Santos Kostek Solic in the 95, going to round out the top 30. Only 7 more drivers in it, but Daniel, a relatively large field as they'll take off of turn 2 and have the iRacing official pace car pull off right before they come off of turn 4. It is going to be a bad, fast race today in only a relatively cool track surface. Only 79 degrees Fahrenheit, but just in the 20s in the Celsius category as Edson Santos and Vitor Guillermo will take the field through 3 and 4. The pace car will make its way down for a very fun but longest race that we've ever seen here at Homestead in VOR IndyCar Series history. 250 laps, just shy of 400 miles and 600 kilometers. Here from virtual South Florida, Santos Guillermo will bring the field off the final corner. We're green flag racing for the first time in season 14. And through a clean lap 1 already, the fight for the lead ignited. Clenworth pointing his nose to the high side, back to turn 1. Cressy and Guillermo try to fight for 3rd.
Very clean first lap there. Good start from everyone. Clean and green so far. 37 Indy cars around a track. That's something you don't see that often. And I'm really surprised with, well, there's a lot of space here. So it should be clean so far. Hoping the commentator's curse doesn't come back to bite me as we see a couple of cars getting a bit close in the midfield there.
Well, this is something, Daniel, that we will not see in the several ovals that follow this in New Hampshire and Nashville Super Speedway. 2 various ovals that don't have many lanes of use as Clenworth pulls away for the lead. Santos will try to find Cressy here, the defense in the battle for the 2nd place running spot as they come off of turn 4. But Homestead is one of those venues where you can go all the way to the bottom, you can go way up to the boards, and you can make it stick. Based on the setups that these drivers have tonight, they have been playing around with it for a while. Practice gave them a good feel of these race cars under relatively cool temperatures, so you'll see that all race long. Everybody scattering to find either clean air or grip across this 1.5-mile track that is very fast and hasn't hosted IndyCar racing in real life since 2010. Watch this nice battle just inside of the top 17. That's Matt Brewer at the back end of this 3-car train. Brian Fiolis and Marcos Teixeira battle for 15th in turn 1.
Good mid-pack battle here. Everyone's just trying to find the line that they want to run. It's a lot of draft here. You can see just the amount of effect the slipstream has here from I didn't see. But anyways, here's a Kosher trying to get on the inside of Yaroslav Donskoy for P5 here. As a Donskoy now hits the back of Vitor Guillermo and makes a dive inside, and he'll take that position.
And you made a good point, Daniel, about this dirty air and it's sitting in traffic. And you get a good look here from this track running inside the top 6 with Cooker, running right behind Donskoy in this battle with Vitor Guilherme in the 21 car, up the road down the inside. Escaping dirty air is a big deal with these IR18 cars, specifically on these ovals. The turbulence is so strong in the back end of the rear wing and those rear tires, and I think that's the thankful thing that the drivers have been thinking about here at Homestead, is that they can experiment, they can escape to that clean air where the car finds just a bit more rotation. If you're more so in the mid-pack, like these guys here where Burroughs, Devchenko, and the rest of this pack sit, how difficult is it going to be to kind of stand out amongst this group and pick your way through that dirty air, gain that track position early in this race?
Oh, it's going to be very difficult to do that. The dirty air has a massive effect in these cars with all the turbulence produced by that downforce. So there's a lot of, so it's going to be real hard to make up positions and get away from the rest of the field in that clean air. But Kyle Klenworth is doing a great job of that so far. He's almost a second ahead already.
And there's an onboard look right on board with the 11 car. Julian Altena finished runner-up in this race last season. That was a shortened race compared to this one, only 200 laps that we ran around this Homestead Miami Speedway. So the extra 50 will add that extra hurdle for the drivers to get over, especially on strategy. But Altena was a pretty decent mover, started 4th in that race, and had slowly picked up all the way to the end to make his way to the front running 2, but just could not beat Mark Murphy at the end of that race in a very fun event that happened just a couple of months ago, back in April. So we'll keep an eye on Altena as he tries to pick his way through the top 5. But right now, Daniel, all Kyle Klenworth, ever since stealing the lead from Santos, the pole sitter, he has really extended this gap, nearly a second all the way back to Santos, and a great look on board from his rear wing. Nothing inside apart from maybe a couple of dots in the rearview mirror, but nothing but clean track ahead.
Nothing but clean track ahead is right. He's probably going to be in the hunt for the win, in my opinion, at least, as we see more battles down in the field here. Strauss getting that was Brewer getting a bit tight through the corner there, so he had to check up. As we see Strauss, he seems to be riding that top side. As here we see Altena. It looks like the bottom is not really working for a lot of these guys right now. As you can see, the top seems to be where you want to be right now.
We saw a lot of drivers, Daniel, in practice go up to that progressive banking. It's 20 degrees up there near the outside wall, only 18 when you're right up against that white line at the bottom end of the corner. So you'll see a lot of the drivers just kind of peek forward higher and higher on the racetrack. And one thing we also haven't really noticed as well is the amount of rubber put into this racetrack. It had a decent amount of rubber already, but you have 37 grueling Indy cars taking one specific lane over a long enough period. That line is going to slicken up. So you'll see many of the guys migrate, maybe a half groove, maybe a full groove, maybe more than that. They'll push the threshold and see where they can find that extra speed. Just around this top 15 is where you're seeing a lot of the bulk of the drivers pull up to the higher side and try to make it work on the higher seams. Good battle up the road. That battle just inside the top 8. Altena under fire. Matt Brewer right behind in turn 1.
Trying to make it work here through turn 1. Brewer's going to go to the outside, try and roll the top line to get that momentum. Altena going to slide right up and block him from making that move.
And Altena just trying to play defense. He'll now peek to the inside, nearly 3 abreast in turn 3. Has to back out before the car washed up the racetrack. Jordan Hale right filled in the rear view mirror. And here comes Brewer, battle behind. He'll stay back in 8th. He'll gain the spot. And that high side is rolling well for car number 14. Not going to be hard at all to make that outside charge. Matt Brewer, what a move to 7th down the back straightaway.
Matt Brewer using the top line. He's riding that wall. It's, well, almost getting as close to the wall as possible without hitting it. It's pretty impressive to see him do that, because a couple other guys are running that line right now. So we'll probably see that line develop a bit more throughout the race, but Altena is going to dive to the inside, and he's going to gain that position on Hale there. So it seems like both lines are pretty equal right now.
Definitely seems, though, that the drivers up the road, especially in Brewer, seem to be very comfortable running that second lane. And you'll see the seams here at Homestead Miami Speedway. That's one thing that is difficult to master here at this track because they have long exits on the corners. You see those darkened lines at the inside of the racetrack. Those are the seams that carry across through the corner. If you cross them too often, the car will most likely step out. Changes in grip will either spin the rear tires or have the right front just crawl up the racetrack near the outside wall. So Matt Brewer just hanging on to that secondary seam on the outside, and it's working so far. Fastest mover throughout this race from 22nd to just inside of the top 10. How about this good battle building up for third place? Yaroslav Donskoy, Nicholas Pressey. This fight for third on back. Pressey just trying to find a way to the inside, but no stopping Donskoy right now, who started in 7th. He's already +4 since the drop of the green. Good moves early on, but still a long way to go. Nearly a full second and 2/10 before he can catch up to Santos in 2nd place.
Yep, seems like the top 2 have checked out from everyone else. Klenburf is just absolutely flying right now. He's he is currently not the fastest car on track, but he is pulling away from Santos each and every lap. He's gotten about holding around 1 minute, 1.2 seconds each lap, and it seems like he's losing a bit of pace on the straights, but gains that back up in the corners.
Yeah, that's the masterful situation behind these IR18s, and unlike a lot of other cars on the iRacing service that run on the ovals, particularly the NASCAR Cup Series cars, Xfinity Truck Series machines, they don't have a lot of in-car adjustments. You can change the brake bias, and that does play a role in rotating through the corner, but when you have cars as fast as these IR18s, you don't really need brakes all that much to get through the corner as quickly as possible. Usually you let off the throttle and shift through the gears, but one thing that these cars do have, Daniel, is that weight jacker feature, the way they can be able to shift weight from the front roll bars to the rear roll bars, and that in turn will change the overall balance of the car. Could free it up if you feel a little tight, but could also tighten the car if it's stepping out a little too much. And you're right on board with Roden Eftink here, sitting just inside the top 10, chasing down Jordan Hale. You'll see the way he tries to arc his car, and these moments, Daniel, could be huge adjustments, and that could play a big role in how the weight shifts around this car and just what type of rotation you can get in the middle of the corner. Again, it's all about throttle here at Homestead.
It is indeed all about the throttle and the gears and pretty much everything. That weight jacker is going to be very important throughout the rest of the races. Guilherme just absolutely cuts Brewer off there, but Brewer has been absolutely charging through the field right now. He just said he's really, really quick right now, and I think it's only a matter of time until he gets by.
And that last cross of the start-finish line, Brewer set at 26 flat and just on par with the leading 4. No one has been able to stop Kyle Klenworth, though. He's remained in that 25.9 second bracket, but Brewer has found his place. Now he's got to switch it up. Inside charge on Guilherme entering turn 1. He hasn't rolled well to the inside of 1 and 2 as best as he could from the progressive banking, and he just cannot find the curvature inside the corner. Here comes Shane Cooker. Battle to the inside for P6.
Yeah, but it looks like he's able to get on that top side and roll more momentum through the corners, which gives him a better exit off. And now he's going to probably try and set that move back up and see if he can keep climbing through the field. He started 22nd, and we're 25 laps in. He's already up to P6.
He's done a phenomenal job of carving through the field, and only 25 laps in the book. So you'd imagine with so much more of this race remaining, how the strategy could play into Brewer's hands, and he goes right back to the very outside of the racetrack. That's been his bread and butter all night long, and Guilherme seems to be falling through the cracks. Shane Cooker finds his nose to the inside in turn 1. Not too far behind is that Julian Altena, number 11 car, who was just hanging around the edge of this top 10 for a little while, got big comfortable, fell through in the middle of track position, but he's been able to stay where he's at, one of those leading drivers in the all-time wins list. Altena with 12 wins total, and again, like we mentioned at the top of the show, 2-time VOR IndyCar Series champ from the first 2 seasons of this series inception back in 2020, I believe it was, many years ago when they started this series in the middle of the pandemic. Guilherme will fall back, and Daniel, I think Guilherme is going to really need some adjustments right now because 27 laps is paling in comparison to the distance we have left in this race, but early fall off, not a good sign from these Firestone Firehawks.
Not a good sign at all. He's fighting that car right now to try and get it turned, although it's really interesting to see the ebb and flow that each of the lines and where each car is stronger than not, as Guilherme seems to just keep pulls away from Cooker there, so I really don't know what's going on. Maybe just a momentary lapse through the corner or just got a tiny bit loose, and that's how he lost the position. But he seems to be back up to speed now, so that's pretty interesting.
And Gedman, of course, like you said, Daniel, early on, very experienced with these IR18s, part of the GIC tour that's also owned by Altena and company. So just the same community of drivers and a very niche group of people that love to drive this IndyCar and are really part of what makes this series and what makes these cars go on the iRacing platform. First yellow out, we had the battle for the inside spot. It is Matthias Strauss. He was just inside the top 15. Car is heavily damaged and he toes right to pit road. That was trouble in turn 3.
Let's see what happens here. I'm going to think a tiny bit of contact. Getting a bit close there to the inside of one of the VOR cars. And just washed up. Boom. And once you lose that rear end, it's pretty much gone.
Yeah, that car was overcorrected. Look at the traffic trying to pummel through, and that tire just comes up sailing over the banking and lands down to the inside grass. That was Hugo Galas, the Chilean driver, just barely making contact, and Strauss already in trouble. And yeah, like you mentioned, Daniel, it is tough to raggle these Indy cars as soon as they step sideways. Here's another look at how things all kind of progressed inside this main group. This is Santos in the 5 car. And there may have been a bit of drama, just great racing inside this back straightaway down to turn 3. This is really where the mayhem begins. And remember, we saw the issue with Strauss, bit more contact, Santos near the wall, and just about pancake the outside barrier. Again, no fast repairs here in this VOR IndyCar Series, so if you find yourself in trouble, it's going to be a long way back to recovery. Field on pit road behind the race leader. Kyle Clenworth was dominated. 4 fresh tires and fuel for the first segment on a lap 31.
Yep, that's probably going to be the play throughout this is 4 fresh tires. He wins the race off pit road. And coming out in the second is Yaroslav Donskoy, who jumps both Santos and Pressy on the pit lane.
And what a drive by Donskoy, keeping up to second, only an 8.3 second stop. Not the quickest among the group in the top 5, the fastest being the leader in Clenworth. But for everyone else, I mean, Donskoy has been able to put on a show. Santos back in 3rd, Pressy 4th, and Matt Brewer 5th as they come out the pit lane trying to restart this race for the first time tonight from Homestead. And one thing unique about this Homestead Miami Speedway that, you know, shares a bit of characteristics with several other ovals, Nashville Superspeedway being one of them, as Clenworth gets a little intimate there with the iRacing official pace car on our good camera view. But it's that pit road access lane that you have to enter off of turn 3. You know, for NASCAR cars, they just have to start braking in the middle of 3 and 4, and they just enter pit road straight on from the final corner. But with these Indy cars, and given the rules that these open wheel machines have had previously racing at Homestead, the ideal rule is you come down to the inside in turn 3, you slow down the race car, but you're still keeping up pace, and then you hop on the brakes hard, get down to pit road speed limit, try to avoid a speeding penalty, and then get your service, to which we haven't seen that since our first yellow gave the opportunity for the field to do it. But it's super difficult, Daniel, to go down there at full pace at about 210, 220 miles an hour and start slowing down, but also making sure you don't lose all that time just parading around that access line before you enter the pit lane.
Oh yeah, it is one of the hardest pit entries on ovals, as we see the pace car if it's lights out, so we're going green this time by. But it's definitely one of the hardest pit road entries on the ovals, and it'll be interesting to see when, not if, green flag pit stops happen, because that was a good 32-lap run, so we should see another good... As we all know, drivers can't pass immediately on the green here, so that'll be interesting to see as pace car gets ready to make that dive down pit road.
And it is a single file restart with the dominant driver of the day, Kyle Clenworth, in control. He'll be waving for the green flag. Here comes the field, spread across down the front straightaway, and nearly 3 wide. It's going to be now 4 wide in the back of the field at turn 1. As Pressy made the dive under Donskoy, that was going to be for second, charging on Clenworth down off turn 2.
As we get over, weapon in the... I think that's Altena on the wall. Or no, that isn't. That's one of the... I don't know who that is.
John Christensen in trouble down the apron on the back straightaway. Car is toast, and the field gets around. Second yellow flag comes out as quickly as the restart began in turn 1, and it's middle 3 wide with that bright blue number 44 car that finds his way in trouble. He was just about in the middle of that near 4 wide situation entering the first corner. They settled it out to just 3. And Daniel, I think the space just goes away here for Christensen. He's trying to find his lane, but on the outside is where you end up with Hugo Gallas, who was a part of that first incident entering turns 1 and 2. Here's a look on board from Christensen.
Yeah, that's real hard there. Real hard to just find the space. And I mean, even worse than that, both of those cars, that's Gary Lovren on the inside and Gallas on the outside, they're teammates. So that's unfortunate for them.
Oh boy, they were teammates. That bright orange and white car, the suspension damage on the left front, and Gallas trying to pick up from a top 10 effort that he had here at Homestead just last season in this series back in late April of this year. Started 12th in that race, had just slightly moved himself through the pack, but the Chilean driver in various troubles already early and a part of those first opening yellows that we have tonight from Homestead Miami. But we will see that a lot, especially in the late stages of this race, Daniel, if we end up with late green flag restarts. Again, track position matters so much, and from that early green flag stretch, we noted how much track position mattered in the sense that a bulk of the field, maybe other than Matt Brewer and a couple of others, they were the exception to the rule, but the rule for most of the field is you're going to stick around the same place in which you qualified, and it's going to matter where you qualify if you're going to be up front, and strategy may play a big role in that as well, but the aggression is high, and with the way you can pass right after the green flag waves, if that leader goes a little bit late, stacks up the lane, you have the option to peek underneath and make a charging move in turn 1. So a bit of that antsiness, perhaps the cause of this yellow, as they were going 3 wide. You touch with these Indy cars, they're not stock cars, they cannot rub fenders, they just either break off the wheel and the tethers come right around, or maybe the car just ends up with a bit of other damage, but that will most likely be the end of the day for Christensen back in 35th, already 2 laps down.
Yep, that is the end of the day for Gallas and Christensen. So, unfortunate for them, but they're going to try and re-rack and restack and be back in 2 weeks' time at New Hampshire Motor Speedway.
And we'll talk a lot more about New Hampshire, especially in the later goings of this race, and as we wrap up the coverage tonight. But just a recap, 4 cars involved in incidents, 2 cars beneath the leaders on laps, as Hugo Gallas is now 2 laps down. Christensen, we mentioned, now 3 laps down. And the 2 DNFs tonight, Matthias Strauss and Lucas Santos, both 7 and 29 laps down, respectively. So already a bit of that attrition throughout the first 36 here from virtual South Florida, but all in the hands of Kyle Clenworth this field is, and he has been rapid fast. Was able to pull away nicely on the restart. Pressy did put on a bit of that press, no pun intended, as he was trying to search for a second on Donskoy. And I'd say, Daniel, the 96 car may have been the biggest loser off of that restart, from the second place position after a good pit stop all the way back to P6. Now he's going to be trapped in this back half of the top 10.
Yep, it was a very, very difficult thing there for the Chili's machine. Seemed like he just did not have a good restart and got caught in the lane he probably didn't want to run and just fell back as Matt Brewer was able to sneak by just before the yellow came out.
Well, a big part of driving is the mental aspect, and so Donskoy will try and rally back and hopefully give enough space to have as much acceleration as possible. This time field single file, but from the inside lane, Clenworth is going to try to play defense preemptively, and here comes the field outside looking for the 3 abreast. Back to turn 1 on the restart. And great run, still 3 wide, 2 rows deep as they come down the back straightaway. Battle already inside the top group and already for second place. Here comes Santos, look behind. Pressy will play the defense, switch over, down off turn 4. Santos look for second, huge crash off the back straightaway. And that was turn 4, Pim Van Gastel stranded off the final corner.
That is not a lot of damage. That looked a lot worse than it probably was. It seems like Pim Van Gastel just going to get a little bit, bit of a net coat there, and into the wall, and around he goes in turn 3. That is how difficult it is, these cars. Like a minor touch and you're pretty much gone.
That's true, and the problem we've mentioned again is that understeer effect in the middle of dirty air and also underneath another race car, especially in the late ends of that green flag stretch. If you were pointing down to the inside, you needed either really good rotation or just a mistake from the driver up top, because you would lose control of the right front tire and just slowly wash up the banking. And a lot of times at these speeds, at about 210 miles an hour, 205 miles an hour for Katie Pollock as she was coming through 3 and 4, a lot of times when the car starts reacting, moving upwards, it's hard to react. By the time you're off the gas pedal, it's still traveling up the progressive banking. So Pollock just makes the fender-to-fender contact, side pod contact with Pim Van Gastel, and that will most likely send Pim Van Gastel out of this race. He'll try to get it repaired, and there is what is left of the 7 car. Jordan Hale going to try and get some repairs off of pit road. But like we've seen from these yellows, Daniel, it's really all just making side-by-side contact. It's a slight touch, and it's going to send that momentum to the outside car, and around they go.
It is that easy to happen. Yeah, you might even get, as we saw in the second yellow, when the wheels connect, and, well, iRacing isn't exactly that was a bit weird of the cars phasing through each other, but that's just one of the quirks of open wheelers on iRacing is the phasing through each other. That just happens sometimes, and well, it's very tough. This track is one of the toughest on the schedule, in my opinion. Is Pim Van Gastel is I think he's still on pit road. He might be done. I think that's done for the night. Although you never know, he might just come back out and roll around and try and get as many positions from crashes as possible. Because there's only 9 weeks, 10 races due to the double races we have at the Indianapolis road course. So not a lot of time to make that points up.
That's a great point, Daniel. I was just about to bring that up. The fact that last season had 10 total races. This season has only 9 total races. So taking off one event really does create a huge hit and puts more emphasis on having good races week in and week out. You know, these events are spaced out over several weeks. There are off weeks here and there. And then that double points affair, that 14th Indianapolis 500-mile race that we'll have later on this season. That'll be right at the midway point of the campaign as the drivers search for a championship. You can't really afford, Daniel, to have a really bad race after really bad race. It's not a long enough season to which you have a mistake here and there, and you can pick your way back up by getting hot at the right time. You need to be solid, and you need to minimize the mediocrity or bad races as much as you can, because one bad race can shoot you down the point standings, and it could easily mean the difference between having a shot mathematically at the title come Phoenix or not. So these drivers taken out early, especially huge names like Christensen, Strauss, and Pim Van Gastel, with all that damage, they're going to have to try and scrap for as many points as they can, or just hope the New Hampshire is a breakthrough effort in race 2. Green flag restart, lap number 41 of 250. There goes the field, already spreading near the high side, but no challenge to the race leader in Kyle Clenworth. Cressy now not under fire from Endo Santos, and Vitor Guillerme looking for 4th place. Matt Brewer right behind as they chase off turn 2.
Three wide. Look at Brewer rolling around the... Oh!
And that's Santos in trouble. Another car involved as they were off of turn number 3, and it's the biggest crash, a parking lot off the final corner, and it started with the battle inside the top 3, and those are several names out. Donskoy, Malkrek, and the list continues. Heavy carnage on lap 42.
That was a huge wreck as Santos just got loose coming off 2, and well, round he went, and wrong place, wrong time for the entire field behind him, and it was a parking lot coming out the exit.
And what a heartbreaker for Edson Santos. He was just inside the top 3, battling for second as they were chasing to Kyle Clenworth. And it's just that contact there off of turn number 3. It's pressing down the inside. It's registered contact from the sim, but it is more than enough to send Santos up near the outside wall. And then as everyone is using the differentiating lanes, in comes other cars, and that's really what causes the problem. Christian Malkrek was the first one to hit the spinning Santos, and then in reaction, Daniel, everybody, it seems like, just got involved.
Yep. Another car hit the apron in turn 3, and around it goes, and well, world's most expensive parking lot just offside turn 4, as that's a lot of cars going to the scrapyard after that.
That's a hurricane off turn 4 if I've ever seen one, especially with the level of contact we saw. And even then, Pressy thought he was safe. He was slowing down, and then he got hit from the rear wing by Roden Eftink, the rookie, making his first start tonight from Homestead Miami. And then that leads to a plume of smoke and many, many cars involved. This is exactly what you couldn't afford to have, Daniel, in an opening race of this season 14 VOR IndyCar Series. Call that maybe 6 or 7 or more cars stranded on pit road. They're going to be multiple laps down.
Yep, I think that's a lot of attrition from there now. Lots of cars probably going to the great junkyard in the sky after this one.
Well, thankfully, we didn't see any cars flying, Daniel. I think that was the big point about it. With these IR18s, open wheel situation, you have those rear tires that's not guarded anymore from DW12 early models that had the bumper guards at the back to prevent that situation. I think I'm thankful. Maybe we're all thankful, Danny. We didn't see any cars take the skies here at Homestead.
Yeah, I think by that point they were not in the right direction or the right amount of speed for to go flying. Although iRacing hit detection can be a bit weird sometimes, so it'll send cars flying when they shouldn't necessarily, but that's just the quirks of every Sims hit detection.
That's true, and we watched Matt Brewer, who now is the benefactor of all of this. That huge crash, he pointed his way through, didn't pick up any damage, and the biggest mover tonight is now up 20 spots since the drop of the green flag, at least in terms of this top running 10. There is another driver who's made huge gains, Jamie McKinney, who registered in this session during just about when qualifying was beginning. He had to roll off 36 on the starting grid, and he's already up 27 positions to 9th place on the grid. The crash certainly helps. The attrition certainly helps you move forward as well. So McKinney will keep an eye on car number 01, one of those late joiners in tonight's session, as he will push forward and try to make use of the gained track position as we level off in this race on lap number 45. So it's Kyle Clenworth still in command of the field. Matt Brewer, who has been carving through the field since the drop of the green, he now has a chance to carve up to the top spot, gain a bit of that clean air. Roden F-Tink will start in this one from 3rd. Julian Altena to 3rd or 4th place. And Fyodor Dovchenko in the 69 round out the top 5. Green flag restart, back to turn 1. And now Brewer goes to the outside of Clenworth. He'll try and charge in 3 and 4, and he just cannot make use of the progressive banking up top. Clenworth in the lead. Cleaner restart, back to turn 1. Clenworth in control.
Clenworth seems to be just absolutely in control. He's the fastest car. Well, Brewers was faster that time around, but that was a restart lap, so don't really count that. We haven't had, and around the field was in the...
And it's a 2-car crash. Nunez Fiolas involved off of turn 2. And just like that, we are going to get another yellow flag and bring out 2 more cars. The former IndyCar iRacing Buck Kicker Pro Series driver out of this race, car number 1, on the inside of turn 2. So here it is. And Daniel, it's just the same product of almost all the crashes we've seen so far tonight. Just minor contact. Nunez trying to keep Fiolas honest in that battle for position that was just inside the top 16. And the slight touch sends Fiola spinning into Nunez, and there's really nowhere to go. They have a straight trajectory towards the inside wall. Here's the onboard look from Nunez.
Yeah, just getting hooked there, and, well, bang, directly into the wall. And we started with 37 cars. We're down to 23 now.
Yeah, the attrition really has picked up considerably here at Homestead Miami Speedway. And I was just about to bring up the point, Daniel, that we saw how spread out the field was on the restart, because I guess they had understood we have so many yellow flags in this race. Let's try and calm things down, and let's run either single file or double file, giving enough space to the driver on the outside or the inside. But for Nunez, trying to be aggressive, trying to gain that position and level off Fiolas coming off of turn 2, is just going to bring out another pause in the action here, 48 laps deep into this race. It's still rather early on. We still have more than 200 to go from South Florida, so plenty of time for the field to get their bearings together. But for right now, Luis Nunez, rather strong driver in this VOR IndyCar Series and 3-time race winner, 13th on the all-time wins list, tied with Oscar Gonzalez. He's going to be out of this affair rather early on, and this is going to create a huge situation, Danny, because now a lot of drivers are put a lap down or more. Some of them are just getting their laps back. Some of them are still on pit road. Aiden Millward got damaged. He's now 22nd. Dan Ench is down pit road in 21st. And as you can see from the iRacing official pace car, we'll at least have one more time to come around Homestead, but the field is ready to go green again.
Yep, this field looks hungry to just click those laps off the board. We haven't had a green flag run since about lap 32, so they're hoping to click off those laps. Millward is now back on the track. It seems like he just made a pit stop there. He did not go a lap down.
It's all going to be about trying not to be a lap down or more in this race. And there is a rule here in this VOR IndyCar Series that if you are more than 3 laps behind the leaders, you cannot fend for track position. You have to usually give your spot up to the leaders and let them by, which is the usual courteous decision for drivers when they are kind of out of that race mathematically for the race win, and they let the faster cars by. But if you're in this case where there are so many crashes, a lot of drivers on pit road getting damage repair, you could be an Alman Lal, you could be a Vitor Guilherme, you guys are 6 or more laps down in 26 and 27, but because you guys are on the same lap, you guys are fighting for a position on the racetrack. So if you're good to repair your IR18 and it's 100% ready to go at that marker of the race, whenever you come back out onto the speedway, you have to fight each other while simultaneously being so aware of where the leaders are on the racetrack and letting them by, making sure you keep it as clean as possible. That could very well create some dire circumstances for those who are, again, in a short-form championship series like this at only 9 races. You are trying your very best to limit the amount of negativity and the amount of bad situations to happen to you. So we'll keep an eye on that. But again, a green flag restart in the hands of Kyle Clenworth. He has mastered the green flag restart so far. Peek to the outside in the fight for third. F-Tink wants to look high on Matt Brewer, and so does Dovchenko. 3 wide for second in turn 1. And now Brewer once more. Fight to the outside, down the back straightaway. Help from F-Tink as they enter turn 3. F-Tink wants a little more as well, but he can't run up the hill with the car to the inside. Brewer falls back. Clenworth plays the defense off turn 4.
Clenworth going to look to the outside again coming into turn 1. He wants to use that outside line. It's worked for him all race. But Clenworth is just that little bit faster than everyone else right now. So it might be a bit tough to get around him as the field just gets real close there coming down the backstretch as we see massive run up the top there.
And these are all Daniel fights inside the back half of this top 10. Jaco Sears, Katie Polak, who had made contact to create one of the earlier yellows of this race, but she relatively still has a good race car left, so she's going to fight for P6. Outside charge on Seegers is going to work for now. Down the back straightaway, side by side, still within this top 10. Jamie McKinney continues his charge through the pack on Seegers now from the outside in 3 and 4.
Very good moves here as well, Seegers is stuck on the bottom. He's getting basically freight trained as although he is trying to get into Altena's draft there, and it seems to have worked there. Oh, big moment there for one of the guys up there. I think that might have been Dovchenko who got a bit loose off turn 2 there, and to the inside as the field continues to spread out here.
Watch these top 4 as the battle continues in this back half of the top 10. That top 4, they have really spread apart. So whatever Brewer had gained on the green flag restart is all null and void. Same deal for F-Tink, same deal for Dovchenko, who over the last few has been a tenth or two slower than those who are running in the top 3 right now off of the final corner. So again, that mention of how big track position will matter and how big these restarts matter, hence why we've seen so many of the carnage early on in this race, because the antsiness is there, the aggression is there in the attempt to not split apart if this race goes green long enough. And it only took 2 or 3 laps for them to fully settle out and string, of course, outwards to the top 5. But Brewer's going to try again, back to his bread and butter on the high side of the racetrack. He's going to gain good draft on the race leader in Clenworth, so going to keep him honest back to turn 1.
Clenworth going to try and block to the outside and then go dive down, and it seems like the inside is working really good for Clenworth right now, but I think Brewer is just able to get into that draft and able to suck up to the back and then try and maintain that around the outside, but it just does not seem to be working right now.
And it's a bit different, Daniel, in these IR18s compared to some of the other oval cars on the service, but the tire wear factor is still the same. Even here at Homestead Miami with this progressive banking, you stay too much to the inside of the racetrack and you burn off the tire, it's going to be the right front that goes away first. If you're up at the top of the banking, like we're seeing Brewer in and a lot of the other drivers in this mid-pack in at the moment, you're going to wear down the right rear tire first, so either it's a tight or loose condition that you'll get. How about 3 wide in the middle of this group? Seeger's trying to play defense. There's McKinney on the high side. Saucier making the move. Switch over back to turn 1, still 3 wide.
This is the tight, close quarters racing, getting real close, and around he goes. Is he going to save it? No! Directly into the outside wall. Hard hit.
Huge crash, and the yellow comes out, and more cars in it. Several others pile into the spinning car of McKinney. It's Vinci, Dan Ench, and many others that are going to call themselves perhaps out of this race. And it's only 58 laps in the books. More huge damage. Aiden Millward gets suspension damage. Still spinning as they come down to the apron. Ryan Rizza and the number 23 involved. And it's, again, slight contact in the fight for 3 wide. Jamie McKinney, that blue, black, and white IR18 on the high side of this group. Again, great racing with Brian Saucier. He ends up in the middle. Seeger's down the bottom end of the speedway. And it's as soon as they touch right there, McKinney nearly saves it on the banking. Too much wheel input. Hard hit to the outside wall. And then right in the wrecking ball, Daniel, everyone else just piles in.
Yeah, nowhere to go, especially with one of those cars being sideways. Damon Lall just insult to injury for his race. That means we're probably under 20 cars now.
Yeah, this race is coming down to the wire, and it's starting really to attrition out very quickly. Again, the spinning McKinney with all of the drivers just trying to get around. It was a relatively big crash, and we'll take a look at how things unfolded right in the background. So there was one machine who had slowed up considerably, and it was Andres Vinci. So he's slowing down. He sees the smoke. Right behind him is Rizza, and Rizza just stuffs the rear wing of the number 85 car, sends him pummeling right into the spinning McKinney. And Aiden Millward, who was just trying to veer out of harm's way, saw the spinning car got hit from Rizza's front wing, and then he really had nowhere to go. Right front tap. Nose cone comes off of the race car as well, so the 67 potentially out of this race as he was already nearly a full lap down, trying to repair from the previous huge crash off turn 4. And here's Clenworth on the pit road. Big time decision is going to put the dominant driver of the day back in 7th place. Dovchenko will take the race lead.
Yep, the top 6 choosing not to pit there. Interesting strategy from everyone, but track position matters so much, especially if the field thinned out to 17 cars from the 37 we started with now, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here.
Well, Daniel, are you a bit nervous if you're Clenworth right now because you decide to come down pit road? It's probably a surefire decision, but now you've got cars to pass in a race in which we've seen so many yellows already. So are you maybe shivering in your boots a little bit if this 37 car has been the best so far in this event?
It really depends on the driver. Some people are calm and collected for the entire race. I know I certainly wouldn't be in this situation. I would be shaking in my boots, or just my feet would be shaking as I don't wear socks, but it gets warm in here. It'll be very interesting to see what the reaction is. I mean, we're not even halfway through the race, and we've already lost more than half the field.
It's been a huge toll on the field so far, that's for sure, and what we've seen so far is good racing here and there, but it's, again, minor mistakes that's taking drivers out. It isn't necessarily heaving moves. It isn't necessarily anything wild or out of the ordinary. It is just regular racing that we've seen that's good up until it's not. And then the cautions come out and things get ugly very, very quickly. So for Clenworth, he'll restart this race in 7th. Fyodor Dovchenko will take the lead in turn. Julian Altena will come up to a race-high 2nd. Katie Polak, a race-high 3rd. Jocko Seegers, remember, he was slightly involved in that 3-wide entry to turn 1 right before McKinney had gone spinning. He's going to be 4th. And Sebastian Kinder in the 97, he'll round out the current top 5. So we'll keep an eye on those who pitted from 7th on back. A lot of them have come in for either fuel only, maybe 2 tires. Green flag waves. Lap 61. Dovchenko in the lead. Altena under fire. Polak in for 3rd. Here comes Altena through the half groove up, looking for the race lead.
See the field trying to spread out. The snake beginning on the bottom. Altena going to roll the high side into 3. Try and get that lead as Brewer is coming fast.
And how does Klenworth respond? Remember, he restarted in 7th. How much work will he have to put in to try and get back to the race lead? Here comes Altena, fight to the bottom shelf in turn 1. He'll have a shot at Dovchenko down the white line. They're 3 wide in the back half of the top 5. Altena to the lead. Dovchenko fighting hard off of turn 2.
Fighting around the outside. This is a brilliant fight. It seems like Klenworth has lost a few positions now. Roden Eftink is now the leader of the cars that stopped, I think. Klenworth is not gaining as fast as I think he would, and, well, I think that might have been a bad decision to hit pit road that time around and probably waited till the next caution.
You're right, though. The yellow-oranges car of Eftink is going to be right behind Klenworth. They are in a continuous fight. That's going to be for 7th, and that's really not going to help their cause if they are the fresh tire cars and the drivers on this opposite strategy. Jordan Hale striking the outside barrier. He will let Klenworth by for P6. All in the meanwhile, Dovchenko has had a hard time keeping these guys behind at bay, while Klenworth has done a solid job of staying ahead, using that clean air to pull out to large gaps. Altena staying within striking range, so is Jaco Seegers. Katie Pollock wanted a shot in turn 4, couldn't get it, and she'll fall back inside the top 5 with Kinder right behind. And again, all of that looking at the former race leader in Klenworth, who is slowly picking up the pace, and there he is, ripping the boards, that teal and white, number 37 up the high side. He'll take away 5th.
Perfect move right there. It seems like just getting into that groove, clearing off the cars behind, and now he's just going to probably roll the top to the lead now.
And now there's the auction for 2nd, trying to bid on the inside, as Julian Altena will stay up in P2, still within that drafting range, but we're seeing the different lanes now as the sun sets here at Homestead Miami Speedway, Daniel. Before, it was either pick a lane in the bottom of the top and make it stick. Now it's go to the bottom and ride up the banking, help that right front tire, and carry as much speed off the long exit. There's Klenworth down the inside for 5th, and now he's got headway. He's going to look for 4th down to turn 1.
He's trying to find, but it seems like Pollock is just holding that outside line, and that means Klenworth isn't able to use his fast line, and, well, that seems to be hurting him right now as he's stuck behind the 42 car.
Onboard look with Klenworth. And again, we mentioned at the top group just how hard it is to make position. How about the power move by Klenworth? Minuscule ranges in momentum. And Katie Pollock just had to play the defense, but she didn't have enough to fend off Klenworth. Altena now in a side-by-side effort with Seegers. Here comes Klenworth, down to the bottom for 1, down to the bottom for 2. He's got the 2 for 1 in turn 3 up to 2nd place.
If I'm Fyodor Dovchenko, I've got the Jaws music playing in my head right now because Kyle Klenworth is coming. And a tiny bit of contact behind that, apparently. They somehow got away with that.
And several battles just outside of the top 10. Michael Deitch in his number 17 playing defense against Kostek Soloj in the number 95. Shabox Murani here back in 13th. And then we mentioned Roden Eftink there. He was just in the picture from 10th place with Jordan Hale and Bryce Saucier, but haven't talked much about car number 17 tonight in Michael Deitch. And great fights inside the back half of the 10. But again, Daniel, we know, I guess they understand now the risk of fending side by side and maybe leveling up the aggression in these battles, because they are the drivers saying to themselves, hey, you know, I've gone this far, 71 laps in. How many drivers are out of this race? I can't even count on my fingers because it's too many. Last thing I want to do is make that poor mistake and send myself back to the garage in the opening race.
Yep, as the battle for the lead begins to heat up, Klenworth is right there. And he's riding the top. He's going to be back in the lead in no time if I was a betting man.
Again, 7.8 seconds on his stop. Klenworth with way fresher tires and a way better race car for now. Wash up from Dovchenko leaves Klenworth with space up front and back to the race lead. Kyle Klenworth dominant in his car through the campaign. And the 37 car will have the clean air again. Dovchenko will have to watch on.
Michael Deitch has hit pit road, apparently.
That is Michael Deitch. That is a HendrickCars.com scheme that Kyle Larson tried to run in this year's Indianapolis 500. So good-looking car there. And and he'll be on pit road, so he will give up a lot of that time, and I believe he may have exited this race, so he'll fall a lap down from the leaders, and the 17 car, who was just in the middle of the top 15 group, it seems like he will be added to the list of casualties after a long one tonight from Homestead Miami. Here's a look from Bryce Saucier in his number 07 car, just running nicely inside the top 7. He was right around that marker of the field to which we saw Rotor Neftink and company trying to battle. Now they are further back in the rearview mirror, and this is the best fight we're seeing on the racetrack now, Daniel. Hale and Brewer. We mentioned Brewer's carve up through the field, how fast it was for the 14 car. Now, just a little bit harder to gain with all of that space to the front running 5 into turn 3.
Yeah, but see, the field's starting to spread out a lot here. There's not many battles as we see F-Tink close up. It's all about the ebb and flow of the gaps here at Homestead, as the differences in the lines and over each lap mean that you're able to gain and lose position. It's a three-way fight for 7th now.
Yeah, good stuff, and here comes F-Tink. Fight to the bottom, going to try and choose the lane. But again, with these Indy cars, very hard to find a lane to get into without making contact with either of the drivers in front. The draft is so considerably strong, and F-Tink is just looking for a way to either get into that clean track down the bottom and find a way to make it 3 abreast, but no avail. Back to turn 1. Hale will point his nose down to the inside. Brewer going to let him through. Potential slide job in 1 and 2. Works for the moment. Brewer will fight back in this heavy draft. Peek to the outside. Touch of the wall. That is small stuff there for Brewer, but it's a big-time move, and it won't get him the spot.
Yeah, but it looks like he's probably damaged the car with that move. He slid up and scraped the wall in turn 3 and 4 there. So it might have paid off. I don't think it did, though. I think that car does not look healthy after that smack of the wall.
It doesn't look healthy at all, and that car is starting to find a way to lose more positions. Here comes F-Tink, fight to the bottom shelf in turn 1. That's going to be for 9th place. And perhaps it was either the top of the wall or either the full send. It didn't work there for the driver of the 14 car, but maybe the right front tire just went away and the handling didn't really play into his favor in this shady part of turns 1 and 2. So he'll play defense again on F-Tink, but they have really lost touch of the 7 car in Jordan Hale, as Katie Pollack, still trying to fend her way through this top 5, is going to try and look on Jaco Seegers and negate it here off of turn 4 with Sebastian Kinder in the 97 right behind.
Good battles throughout the field here. It's spread out a lot compared to what it was, but I think everyone's starting to calm down, because it's a long race. We still haven't reached lap 100 yet, so it's a long race. There's a lot of time to go. You have time to make those moves.
And again, when you're watching these drivers in the back half of the top 5 kind of battle it out, again, they really haven't pitted in a long while. They've gone now 50 laps on their set of either fuel and tires. Remember that early pit stop that basically the entire field made early on in this race. That was a consensus call, and for the most part, no real problems on that end. But now that you've gone this far, the field is thinned out considerably. You've had as many yellows as you've had to take out plenty of big names in this field. Now you're thinking of long green flag run. Now I've got to pit at a certain point in this race, knowing that maybe there won't be a concern for a huge yellow at this point, now that the field is kind of in their own zip codes for right now. And then you look at the decision by Kyle Clenworth, who is the leading car, and the next driver on his same strategy is back in 7th, and Brian Saucier. Is there concern for maybe 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th as they ride around for position?
Yeah, I'd say there would be concern. Clenworth has just been so much faster than everyone else tonight. It's almost like a Johan Royer situation in the GIC races on Wednesday, that everyone is trying to gain all the different spots. It's chaos out there, and well, with the field as spread out as it is, I think there's a bit of worry for those guys who did not make a stop under that last caution, because they're going to have to make that stop under green sooner or later.
And watching this battle for what's going to be 9th between F-Tink and Brewer, these are 2 drivers who, like Clenworth, pitted just about 24 laps ago. So they're on that strategy to go as long as they can. A lot of those quick decisions for mostly fuel, just to try and extend their run. And this will help them considerably. They will have that overcut strategy, so they won't have the benefit of fresh tires early in the run. But again, here at these oval tracks and here at Homestead, a place that really likes to shred, either Goodyear Eagles or Firestone Firehawks, it's going to be a matter of having the fresh tires later working out in your favor. And you're right, Daniel, about what happened to Matt Brewer. That car is not the same as it was prior to the tap of the outside wall. It seems like the right front tire is giving way, and you can tell just how much he's struggling to get back in the throttle, how much wheel input he's putting in the middle of the corner. He's using the banking to try and offset that negative effect, but he still has a lot of work to do to figure out how to get his car back to top shape.
Yeah, he has a lot of work ahead of him. It's a long race, and with car handling like that, he's going to be struggling for the rest of it. As we see coming back up here to Sebastian Kinder, he's looking at Katie Pollack as Katie Pollack just slightly grazed the wall there. So that could have just been the particle effects freaking out, as they tend to do.
And Sebastian Kinder still in this group, that Team Watson racing car. Only in his 5th career VOR IndyCar Series start. A driver who hasn't been around all too much, but so far with the average start of 9.5, it's pretty good qualifying rise for the number 97 who rolled off 12th in this race from Homestead Miami. And again, plenty of the drivers, especially here in this group, either semi-fast race cars or kind of okay race cars in that first segment. But when the yellows opened up, so did their opportunities at moving forward. And so whether it be through crash cars or not, they've been able to keep their cars clean, which is the most important thing, Daniel. But they've gained the track position as for now, and just kind of goes back to that philosophy of as long as you stay on the track, chances are you're going to be in good shape. If cars crash all around you and you're able to stay out of harm's way, chances are you get some good points off of a race in which maybe you didn't expect it to be with 37 cars in this field. As Solowich here in 11th tries to hold on to his spot with Marcos Teixeira and Szabolcs Morani here in 13th.
Yep, very good fight down in the lower parts here. These guys are just fighting for points that they probably weren't expecting. Morani has had a struggle bus of a season in the GIC on Wednesday nights, or Wednesday afternoons. Like, it's been a tough season for him, so he's just hoping to bring this car to the end as Teixeira and Solowich just go absolutely hammering tugs for 11th place here.
And Morani in his first ever start in this VOR IndyCar Series, so making his debut in season number 14. And one of only 12 drivers in this season to be a part of that rookie class, just trying to stun the rest of this longtime veteran group in this series and kind of stand out, try to get good points and good position. Morani currently holding on to 13th, and a look back again. What's building up for 4th here? Katie Pollack is still keeping pace with Julian Altena, but it's going to be Jacko Seegers who's going to make a way down to the inside. And again, they will help Sebastian Kinder in this group. As long as they continue side by side, 97 car of Kinder is just going to either stay within striking distance, or he will have a chance proper and making the effort to step into the top 5 for the first time all night long. And Pollack has been trying, Daniel, but just a good demonstration of how tough it is to use the different lanes and find pace. If you're any of these drivers, how hard would it be to find this level of comfort as Pollack again goes down to the bottom?
It is so difficult to find comfort in these cars on a track like Homestead. It's so unique on the calendar. There's no one groove. Like, finding your comfortable groove and keeping pace is very difficult. It's two completely different things that they have to deal with here.
And it looks like drivers are down a pit road, so there goes Pollack, there goes Altena, there goes Dovchenko. Kinder's going to stay out the extra lap, so he'll be to second. But again, back to the point I mentioned earlier about this secondary strategy, how it's helping those overcut at the front, but it's going to force these drivers on pit road just before we are just getting about to what's going to be the halfway marker in tonight's race at lap 125. So in they go, long time service. Kenneth will stay out in front, and he should lap this field as he comes back around to turn 1. But good pit stops for now, and the biggest thing in mind, Daniel, do not speed on pit road.
Oh yeah, you do not want to do that. That's a black flag in a drive-thru, and you're going to lose heaps more time than you would have gained from speeding up pit road.
So there goes Katie Pollack. Jacko Seegers will beat her off of pit road, and Julian Altena already back in that merge area. The access line, you got to take in 1 and 2. You can't just come off of turn 1. You got to be down under that grass in that shallow piece of asphalt and just wait your turn. Try to keep that car as rotated as possible and carry that momentum to the back straightaway, hopefully with the car right in front, so you can get a bit of that drafting help. That certainly ekes in with helping fuel-saving causes, maybe saving tires as well. Devchenko here has stayed out, or rather he has come down pit road, and he will be all the way back in what's going to be P13, so a pretty big loss for the 69 cars he carries through 3 and 4, the former race leader. And then we mentioned the likes of Sebastian Kinder staying out for as long as he did. He's down pit road now, and he's in and out here at lap number 97, so plenty of the rest of the group coming in. And now everyone else will cycle out. Brian Saucier will be second. Roden F-Tink, despite the trouble he's been around in that range, he's remained, and now he's put himself in third.
Yep, it seems like the alternate strategy is not working right now. They're all a lap down to Glenworth now. It'll be really hard to make that up over the remainder of the race, especially being off cycle.
Here's a look on board with the 73 of F-Tink as he tries to chase on Brian Saucier. These are two of the closest cars on the racetrack if you're not counting Marcos Cicera and Matt Brewer, which is going to be a potential fight for 4th place. But again, all of these front-running guys, that goes all the way back to what is Gary Lovren in the 9th place spot. That is technically that undercut strategy group that had pitted under the recent yellow, and they are now staying out for as long as they physically can. Brewer right up there with Marcos Cicera, who's fighting to the inside lane. Brewer will hold on, and hopefully the fresh set of Firestone Firehawks will right the ship for the 14 car who started P22 in this race. And Roden F-Tink not too far up the road at about 0.8 of a second, so there could be a possible 3-way fight just in the middle of this top 5 group. Again, for good points, 25 laps from halfway.
Yeah, but he's going to have to deal with the lap car of Julian Altena between the two of them, so it'll be interesting to see. But Teixeira is not giving up on trying to get that position, and this is going to be a fight for a while as the two of them try to settle this one.
Good onboard look from Teixeira, and just a good point on Julian Altena, who you talked about, is that lap car. He is now the second driver placed as 1 lap down. Devchenko in the 69 is the technically first car a lap down as he came off of pit road first amongst those group of drivers. So he's just carrying that level top 10 position right now. You want to know the difference in time between the leader in Glenworth and Julian Altena, who's running in 11th on fresh tires, I believe. I don't even know if it's fresh tires, but it may just be fresh fuel. It is around the same, 25.7 between those two drivers, so not a big difference at all. And I'd say, you're trying to chop off as much pace as possible with the tire sets and such, but it is not a good sign if you're going to be level pace with the race leader, who is currently on lap 43 of his stint. He's very well in his long green flag stretch.
Yeah, Glenworth has just been an absolute masterclass tonight. He's been so much faster than everyone else, and it's impossible for anyone to get around him right now. And well, he's pulling an even bigger gap on Saucier behind him. I would not be shocked if he laps the field by the end of this if it continues to go green.
Well, his pace has been strong, and he's got the largest gap we've seen from first to second all race long at about just 9.5 seconds as Glenworth continues to spread apart. He isn't that much faster than Saucier right now. It is just maybe a couple hundredths of a second. It's not a big time difference, but it is enough to keep Glenworth in control, and he's very much comfortable where he is. As there's Matt Brewer in that fight. I believe that was Sebastian Kinder to the inside, and that's not necessarily a fight for position. Kinder is a lap down, so when you're in this range in this VOR IndyCar Series, rules say you can still keep fighting with lead lap traffic cars. You don't need to let them by. You don't need to be super courteous to them. So it's good news for the likes of Kinder and company, who are just attempting, once the main group comes down pit road, to unlap themselves and gain all that track position back. And the same goes with Jaco Seegers, who is a lap down, but I believe him and Kinder are in range to fight for track position at about 0.7 of a second separating those two from P12. So at this moment, Daniel, it is either purgatory for some or very comfortable for many, as there comes one of the drivers onto pit road. That is Bryce Saucier, first of the top 3 to come down to pit road.
First to come down pit road is right. Coming about to the end of a stint here, so we should be seeing Glenworth and F-Tink in sooner rather than later, as Saucier just pulls into that pit stop, goes up with the jacks to take 4 tires and fresh fuel, and will probably get back out there as soon as he can. And there he goes.
Quick pit stop again. It's all about making sure that you do not overextend your stay when trying to push as much as possible at the entry to pit road. There is a pit speed limiter on these IR18s, so it does the bulk of the work for you when you're already in pit lane. But again, like we've seen it, even tracks like Indianapolis, a straight-in approach is not as difficult with the turning aspect, but it's difficult in the way you have to hop on the brakes as hard as possible. Try to avoid getting over the pit speed limit and then getting a black flag that will set you multiple laps down, given how fast these cars track around this Homestead Miami Speedway. Great look off the nose cone of the 86 car, Marcos Teixeira, as he continues to mount the pressure. This time on Rotor Nefting, that's going to be for second. And again, big change this will be in the swing for momentum, knowing that they will have to hit pit road soon. Teixeira down low has the better handling car. He'll take over P2, just about nearly 13 and a half seconds off from Clenworth, but P2 for now, with F-Tink right behind. There's Gary Lovern, car number 34 on pit road. He's a lap down already in 15th. And Roden F-Tink will have some pressure from behind. Again, lap car, that is Sebastian Kinder. And the fresh tires will work for Kinder's machine as he rolls off turn 4. But I think F-Tink is in this place right now to which he's not necessarily worried about losing track position. It's just running this tank dry up until the end. And right on a pit road, Matt Brewer locked up all 4 of his tires coming down to pit road speed limit. I think he got away scot-free, but Brewer is in the single car this time.
And Clenworth is also in at this time as that gap comes down.
So here's a look from Brewer. Again, entry turn 3 on the access road, clinging to the bottom. You're on the high end of second gear. And then right about here, you got to hop on the brakes and make sure you make pit speed limits. Oh, Daniel, he had limited to no control of the race car right at that last second. But he did make it on pit road speed limit, so no black flag for Brewer. He keeps on going.
That's just luck right there. That's pure luck from him, as Clenworth also coming off pit road now. He's made his stop, so he'll have 4 fresh tires as the field tries to unlap itself, but it's not looking good.
You know, you ask a driver, Daniel, whether it's luck, and I think the most of them would tell you no. It is a precise placement of the race car at all times, but for Brewer there, I think he got away luckily that he didn't lock it up too much to get into the wall, and he had enough speed to scrub off to make pit road speed limit. So a great job from Brewer. He'll stay in this race, but again, this will shuffle the field out, and Marcos Teixeira will get his first share of laps led tonight from Homestead Miami Speedway, and Chabot's Murani in the 88 car will be right behind in second. Anthony Heitzma is just hitting pit road, but he will sit down from third place. We haven't talked much about car number 22 because he rolled off dead last in this field, getting through all of that attrition. Huge credit for Heitzma. There he is on pit road. Clenworth will try and cycle back out to fourth, and it was one of those solitary cars, Daniel, that I don't think lost a lap in this entry and exit from pit road. He had such a big gap, to which 9.8 seconds to cover was enough to keep him on the lead lap. And so this cycle out with those front-running 3 that still need to pit, it's going to be huge.
Yep, it's going to be huge. And Dovchenko has pitted. He was one of the earlier cars in. So Clenworth is now, well, only he's gaining massively. I think it's going to be tough to, well, pit strategies. This has turned into a strategy race. It is going to be 2 separate, different strategies, and the fact that a pit stop around here under green flag conditions is an entire lap. It'll be interesting to see what continues to happen throughout the rest of this race as we come close to the halfway mark.
Well, this seems like a very clear and easy decision in the battle for the lead. That is Fyodor Dovchenko, who had pitted earlier in this race about 21 laps ago, and it is a 17-lap difference on tires. Inside goes Clenworth in turn 3, and that is basically it for now. Actually, no, Dovchenko is still ahead, so Clenworth will get around the lap car. There is still a second between those two, but the difference, Daniel, in time is big. Clenworth is just about 3 or so tenths faster than the race leader, so he will get there eventually.
He will definitely get there eventually, and he'll just sail right on by. I mean, tire wear is the factor throughout all of these races. Tire wear is the factor, and, well, it seems like Clenworth is playing the smart game here and is going to try and pit as late as possible to beat everyone else in that strategy, and he's just been faster than everyone else all night, so I think it's... Clenworth is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah, and on his only strategy, the only other car that's on the same group in 6-lap-old tires is the 8th place machine of Rotor Nefting. So there's nobody in the zone that Clenworth is in right now, especially in this change of track position and change of strategy. So Clenworth, I think is on cloud 9. He's thinking that as long as he can take the lead away from Dovchenko, and if we stay green, that overcut strategy may just take him all the way to the end of this race, as we've seen the field at least go 55 to 60 laps on a set of fuel before eventually coming down pit road. And Clenworth is just about creeping up on the 69 machine. It's now 3/10 separating the two cars. On board with Clenworth as he'll chase to the bottom in turns 1 and 2. Look at how much speed he's got at the exit of the second corner. Down the back straightaway. He'll have a look down low on Dovchenko. Battle for the lead. Settle quickly in turn 3. Clenworth stays down there and he will take the top spot at lap 119.
And back to the front of the field he goes. Leads that lap, and he'll just try and pull away as quickly as he can now. As the draft is very powerful here right now, so Dovchenko is, well, he's starting to lose time, and I think Clenworth is just going to drive off into the sunset, both figuratively and literally, right now.
Hey, but the good news, Daniel, is that Dovchenko, although he doesn't have the lead now, he's got second place, number 1. But number 2, he's just about 4 seconds clear of the next car that's on his same undercut strategy of Julian Altena, who's running inside the top 3. And both of them are running kind of similar laps. Altena is just a tad faster, but it may not be enough to creep up all that time, 3.9 seconds now, in a relatively quick space of distance. So it looks like Dovchenko could be a little comfortable. He'll run where he is right now, and he doesn't have the lead, but it's second place as we approach halfway, so it's good news anyway. Only good battle on the racetrack right now is, I believe, for 8th place, Rodin Efting, Marcos Ticera in it, but also this one here for 11th, Sebastian Dufresne, the number 78, and Katie Pollack, who was just in the top 5 prior to the most of the field coming down pit road. And Pollack, I think, lost the most out of the main group of cars because Altena's up there, Dovchenko's up there, Kinder is up in the top 5, and so is Seegers. But Pollack, who was right on the rear wing of Seegers earlier in this race, she has fallen to 12th place. So either a slow entry and exit off of pit road or what. But for Pollack, she's going to try and salvage what she can in this fight for P11.
Yeah, salvaging is what you got to do after making a mistake on pit road. It's tough. It happens, and sometimes it's not your night, but you're still going to be getting a really good finish with only 17 cars out of the 37 that started still running.
And she'll fall back to Dufresne. That now is a 7/10 of a second gap. And Marcos Ticera, who was a part of that other solid battle, right about half a second behind Rodin Eftink. Still has another car behind in Matt Brewer, just nearly 2 seconds back of the road. But again, this is, again, that point of the race where, Daniel, everyone's settled into their strategy. You're making your bed for the final half of this race. So where you sit right now, it could be a sense of, if I see a car in front that's worthy for track position, I'll go for it. But if I don't, if I'm in my own island, there's no worth in either over-pushing this race car or trying to extend that hand so far out the window that it's really not going to make any benefits at the end come the long green flag strategy. It's just all about where you are and where you're going to try to gain when it matters the most. As Brian Saucier dives to the bottom, big block by Jordan Hale for 6th place.
That was a massive block, but it seemed like it worked there, so I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but there's still over 100 laps to go, so I mean, I wouldn't have done that, but that's just me.
Our producer, Howie Burroughs, giving us a great alternative look at this replay. So Saucier's getting the draft, seems business as usual, and I don't know, right about here, shutting the doors, Jordan Hale. And I think Saucier may have just gotten away without any front-end wing damage because that chop on the nose easily could have altered the handling of that race car. And Saucier will live to fight another lap, but for how scared is he going to be to catch up to Jordan Hale if he does within the next few laps? It's going to be a matter of decision, but Hale being rather aggressive and defensive in P6.
Yeah, it's all about like just keeping and just trying to keep that car as we see. Big dive there. Saucier going back at him. He's going to try again on the inside. Going to touch the apron, get a bit loose there, and well, lose all of that momentum he gained.
Is there any silver lining here for Bryce Saucier? It looks like the answer for right now is no. You can't really rotate that car near the white line, and we've seen a lot of the drivers put their left side tires, especially right on the apron, and that unstables the race car. The oscillation gets it all out of shape, and you just find no rotation at all in the middle of the apex. So Saucier is relatively faster at least over the course of the long green flag stretch, but that one failed attempt set him at a 26.410, while Hale set at 26.172. So that is the big difference when you're getting shut at the door. Attempt in and attempt out. Saucier still within at least 0.2 of a second. Still not close enough to try again, but he understands it's going to be even more frustrating if he stays behind this 7 for as long as this run goes.
Yeah, it's going to be real frustrating, but you don't want to get that into your head and have the red mist come up, because, well, it's been we don't want another caution, in my opinion, at least. I mean, this has been real good racing so far. Well, except for the lead, which has been, getting a bit loose there. And that's the swing you wanted, down to the inside. He's going to make the move here to turn 1.
Hale bobbles, Bryce takes advantage. So Saucier moves up to 6. And again, the faster race car overall. It was just slowing down in the middle of that battle. And look what they have brought into the party. Rodin F-Tank is now 0.7 of a second behind the 7 of Jordan Hale. So it could easily be maybe a 3-car party. Hale will strike the outside wall. Got too much of the right front tire in on the outside of the racetrack. And there is a black flag for Jordan Hale. I'm not sure whether race control gave him maybe a disciplinary action for that move in turn 3. Or maybe it's too much damage on the car, but I don't know. Black flag here for Jordan Hale. He will have to serve the penalty, and he'll come down to the access lane. F-Tink will take away the spot in turn, and now it's going to get worse. Spinning down to the access lane, he saves it, but that may be race ruin just past halfway for Jordan Hale.
Well, that's difficult. It's so easy to do that. The access road's so easy to just lose the car and spin, but hey.
So I don't know, Daniel, what happened here. Again, it was the block in turn 3 that was maybe the cause of concern. But again, race control did not deal it in the middle of the sim. So there was a touch of the outside wall. And for Jordan Hale, it's top of the safer barrier. And yet it is a penalty on pit road. So Hale in turn will fall a lap down shy of the leaders. He is just coming back around off of turn 2, but we are getting confirmation, Daniel. Incident point penalty threshold breached for the 7 of Jordan Hale. That one mistake is going to cost him the rest of the way.
Yep, that's a very, very difficult issue there. It is so easy to rack up incident points at a chaotic race such as this, that just minor scrapes, and, well, you've hit the instant limit and your race is ruined. So, sometimes, what can you do?
And I believe, Daniel, on these oval tracks, it is a 15x incident penalty threshold that you can reach up to, but as soon as you go past it at any point in the race, you will have to serve a black flag penalty, and then the penalties just continue on if you remain getting incidents for the rest of the event. So I believe that's exactly what Jordan Hale just breached, 15x on the racetrack. You know, given the amount of cards we've seen tonight, not hard to rack up 4x's, maybe not hard to rack up 1x's with either off tracks like he had, just entering pit road there in the middle of the grass, or maybe slight contact with other drivers. So for Hale, his race will downturn in a bad way, and he will end up 15th on the racetrack, and he's coming back down pit road. So another huge blow for Hale. He's going to fall a secondary lap down, and again, if you're 3 laps down or more from the race leaders, you have no right to fight for position with those lead lap cars. So Hale is going to suffer a little bit more. The hemorrhaging will happen here as he overshoots its pit stall. It's gone from bad to worse for the 7.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much race over there for him. Probably could be damage from the wall hit there, and yep, he's done. He's out.
So Hale will call it quits. He will add himself to the long DNF list, and that means Pim Van Gassel and Yaroslav Donsko, as long as he comes back out on the racetrack, may have a chance to gain spots with how much is left in this race. Van Gassel was only 3 laps down. Remember, he had been involved in a prior caution very early in this race, so he had a lot of time to get that car repaired. And so he will inevitably beat Jordan Hale just by being out of the racetrack, given what that 7 has dealt with over the last several laps. So this race has thinned out considerably. The only close battle is right around here for 6th, 7th, and 8th. Saucier, after making the move on Hale, had Rodin F-Tink come into the picture. Then Hale went down pit road, so F-Tink moved further up. And Marcos Cicera, who was one of those last drivers to come down pit road, overcut strategy. He's just a tad faster than the 2 cars up the road, maybe by about a 10th or less. It's marginal for the 86 car, but it is better. So he'll try to pick up on the 73 car. He's within 0.2 of a second. Possible fight for 7th place within the next few.
Yep, it'll be interesting to see this fight for 7th develop over the remaining course of this race. We're almost at about 109, 108 laps to go now. So this race is starting to fly by now that we've had a long green flag run.
And the gap between the race leader and Dovchenko sits at about 6.7 seconds. You want to know the difference between those two cars based on the strategy? Clenworth, who again was on the overcut that pitted 31 laps ago. Dovchenko in a group that pitted 48 laps ago and counting. He is about 3 full tenths slower on the racetrack than the race leader in Clenworth. So it's a big time difference, especially here at Homestead as the sun continues to descend down the South Florida horizon. And Tisera continues this hunt on Road and Efting for what's going to be another gain spot just in the back end of this top 10. And watch that on the left side of your screen, the R's. That is indicative of the rookie drivers that are in season 14 of this series. 2 of them in the top 10. Great running for them right now.
It's actually 3 in the top 10 as Dufresne is currently in P10.
Oh, you're right. 3. I just about missed the frenzy there. But Murani is also a rookie. He's back in 11th, so a possible chance to make it 4 rookie drivers in season 14 that are going to have a top 10 running building up for them, at least for right now, as we push forward in this race. I believe there may have been one other taker on pit road, and it is Jaco Seeger, so he goes 49 laps into his green flag stretch before ultimately calling it in. Julian Altena will bring his IR18 down pit road as well, so the undercutters are going to start to flail on in as Clenworth and the rest of the company will stay out.
Clenworth trying to pull that gap. Dovchenko also peeling down pit road this time by. So it seems like 50 laps is the amount. So it's going to be 2 or 3 more stops. 3 more stops for those guys. 3 more stops for them and 2 more for Clenworth and Co.
It's a long race, so of course you got to try and cut it in as many dividends as you can. Some of them in 3s, some of them in 4s. Haven't seen anybody try to save fuel on the racetrack right now, so there hasn't been any of that outlier situation in which somebody's going to try and go all the way to the checkered flag on a less stop than the rest of the field. All business as usual here from Homestead Miami. 146 laps in the books in our longest green flag stretch of the night. Again, caused by all of those early yellows. If you're just joining us now on GreenFlagTV, you missed a lot of the carnage early. Big crashes off of turns 3 and 4. Some of them down on the back straightaway. It took many big names out of this race. Luis Nunez, one of them. Matthias Strauss, another. Christian Malkrek, he was also involved in crashes early. Edson Santos, Nicholas Presley. At one point, they were in the top 3 fighting for the race lead. They had crashed, and they're out of this race. Vitor Guilherme is also behind the wall in the garage, and so it leaves us with what is now just about 18 cars that are currently still on the racetrack, and only 5 of them on the lead lap, given this round of green flag stops.
Yep, it's going to be an interesting race for the rest of it. The field is spread out enough to where I think it'll probably go green to the end, although I'm a commentator, so I probably just cursed the field. So we'll see here. I mean, Clenworth has pulled an absolutely massive gap on the rest of the field. It's pretty much his race to lose at this point.
Daniel, how many times would you say you have commentators jinx a race, especially in like this scenario? Green flag, we've gone green for a long time. How many times would you say it's happened to you?
Shockingly little so far, other than on the 2 oval races I've called in at Iowa and GIC when I cursed the points leader at the time, and well, he only fell to 3rd, and well, it's going to be a winner-take-all race at Indianapolis in 2 weeks' time. But shockingly little amount of commentators cursing has happened in situations of a driver dominating. So we'll see if that changes.
And maybe there's no bad mojo for you. I hope there's no bad juju for me, because it's happened to me plenty, especially in this scenario where everyone's in their own zone, they're comfortable, and all of a sudden just somebody makes a mistake or something. I think the longer you commentate, the more jinxes you find, which is, kind of a bittersweet thing, because it's like, all right, well, what's going to happen, but knowing that it happens often on the strategy, it seems to be kind of funny to see. Here's Gary Lovren. There's trouble there on the right front. That suspension is broken. The nose cone is gone. And Lovren, who was just sustaining in this race, I saw a car down low, had let the field by on the inside. And yeah, that is the cause of the concern. Contact on the exit of turn 4 as they were coming to turn 1. I believe that's where the contact was made. And Lovren finds himself basically out of the going. The other car involved was Julian Altena. Daniel, so trouble for the undercut machine who had just barely escaped.
Yep, and again, VOR teammates getting into each other. That seems to be a theme in this race. That's going to be a long talk in the hauler in the virtual hauler at the end of this race, considering how both sets of the 4 VOR cars have got into each other.
Lovren is not going to be happy about that. The Lovren's incorporated onboard camera as he was coming off of turn 4 again. Just like all of the incidents you've seen tonight, Daniel, attributed back to minor contact with high momentum. You sling to the side, a bit of that touching will get one of those cars upset. And thankfully, Altena escaped without any damage. I'm not sure whether he will serve anything as a result of that. It looks like he'll be okay in 10th place, but it will hurt his chances at catching up to the likes of Dushenko and company, who are on the same strategy as him. Remember, he was several seconds back after the initial round of green flag stops, but contact with his teammate, it's going to provide for, like you said, Daniel, some long conversations when this checkered flag raises from Homestead Miami. There's a look from Anthony Heitzma, one of those rookies inside the top 10. It's done a nice job moving up forward, with Kostek Solovic not too far behind. That's just about a 0.3 of a second gap between those two IR18s. Great job for Heitzma, who again had to join this race in qualifying from 37th, dead last on the grid, and he's now up into the top 10.
It's an impressive race for Heitzma. He's been running Wednesday nights and not had the best go at it. He's been involved in a couple scuffles and that. I mean, he's just kept that car clean, which is pretty much as you want to do right now. You want to keep that car clean and just get it to the end in a race like this.
Keep your wheels on the road, and you should be okay, but potential chance to gain at least one more spot with Solic in the 95 car right up the road. Again, closest margin that we're seeing right now. More cars on pit road. Bryce Saucier has found his way in and out on a 10.1 second stop, and he had pitted just now, and he's going to fall down 2 laps down. Same deal with Sebastian Kinder in the 97, Katie Pollock in the 14th spot, and Julian Altena still within range to stay at least 1 lap down. But Daniel, that's going to be a huge blow, and it may put more drivers a lap down. And Julian Altena goes hard into the inside wall. He comes back up the racetrack. That will cause the yellow. 158 laps in. Altena swerves off the second corner and goes heavy on into the inside barrier. Caution out after the longest stint of the race.
Well, that is not what we wanted to see, as it traps basically every single car but Tissetta and Clenworth a lap down. So that is not what we wanted to see. And, well, that's a hard hit to the inside wall. And, well, that's just your luck sometimes. You just get loose and, well, you're going around.
And Altena just gave us a video in the chat explaining the scenario. It was a mechanical hardware issue where the wheel just went away.
Or no, the sim crashed. Looks like the sim froze, and, well, that's it. It's like those real mechanical failures sometimes.
Yep, huge trouble for Altena. Remember, he was running nicely in the top group, a lap down. And from the initial look at the replay, it almost appeared that he caught loose off turn 2. Again, I mentioned those seams. You cross them a little too much on the tires, and the car's going to step out one way or another. I almost thought Altena was maybe chasing a loose race car, but it appears it is a hardware gremlin that'll take the league owner out of this race. That is huge trouble and just a heartbreaking scenario, Daniel, because you can't control it. If your sim crashes or if your hardware goes away in a moment's notice, it doesn't warn you. You don't know when it's going to happen. So for Altena, on a decent run built up tonight, it will be turned sour, and you'll have to focus on New Hampshire Motor Speedway in a couple of weeks' time. Clenworth will reach out of pit road. No fight for position behind him. Tissetta will be second. Roden Eftink will be third. And Dovchenko, it appears he'll hang on, may indeed be fourth. But that means only 4 cars on the lead lap of this race. As we'll try to get another look at what happened with Altena here. This is entering turns 1 and 2. Watch the wheel as he goes into the corner. Yeah, it's not moving. It's not moving. That's the hardware that disconnects. That's the sim that crashes. And he's just a passenger, nowhere to go until either the sim gets back. And he stays on the racetrack, so the sim didn't exactly crash to exit the window. But Daniel, it's just more than enough time to send him off the line directly into the wall. He has no control of the race car at that point, so Can't fault him for the yellow flag coming out. That is a tough scenario to deal with, knowing the implications of how long this race has gone green.
Yeah, lots of wave rounds coming now as we get ready to go back green.
Here's Katie Pollock, 2 laps down. She'll be in 13th here as the field will catch the wave around here. And again, a lot of that to unlap themselves, get themselves back on the lead lap. But it's not a lot of drivers that will be back on the lead lap in competition to win. Dovchenko, it looks like, will be one of those singular cars that'll come back on the lead lap. So he'll be 4th place. Tisera and Eftink will be 2nd and 3rd. Clenworth, of course, the dominant driver of the night. He has remained in the lead, and with as many cars as we've seen disconnect from this race, it may either be bad luck, the stormy cloud that strikes Clenworth, or something to take him out of contention. But so far, no stopping the unstoppable force as the field will come off of turn 4. Pace car will make its way down to the entry of pit road for another time tonight with just about 90 laps remaining from the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. Green flag in the air. Clenworth with a good start back to turn 1. Now to the inside is a lapped car just trying to play a big role in it. Tisera all the way in the back. Several car lengths behind this group is going to have to hope that there is no trouble right off of his visor. He's going to hold off Eftink in the fight for 2nd. Clenworth not again in this fight because there are all lapped cars right behind off of turn 4.
Huge gaggle of lap cars. It's good at Eftink in 2nd. Highest rookie in the field right now. It's all chaos right now. It's on these restarts, and well, there goes Clenworth. He's got the clean air, he's got the gap, and he's gone.
And that's the fight for the wave around right behind the race leader. Matt Brewer in 5th a lap down. Shabox Murani in the 88 is 6th a lap down. So if you get that forward spot, a yellow comes out, you could easily put yourself back on the lead lap when the pace car comes back around. And for right now, it is helping Clenworth maintain his position at the front. It is allowing Eftink to make a good fight on Tisera. Now Dovchenko will look down low. He'll step into 3rd onto Eftink in turn 3. We're nearly 3 wide.
As the sun goes down, the field starts...
Whoa, contact! Middle 3 wide! Fine margins on the straightaway. Dovchenko nearly ping-ponged off the 2 cars, and we're going to stay green. That was nearly disastrous.
Yeah, but we didn't want to lose any more cars after we've lost 24 cars from the start of this race.
Watch this on the iRacing onboard camera. Dovchenko, the madman in the middle. That orange car of Eftink, run off of turn 4. Car down low. There's contact on either side. Touching the walls. Dovchenko breaks free to 3rd place, and he still couldn't even get past Eftink. That was close, as close can call it.
Oh yeah, I think those cars made contact on the wheels. He ping-ponged between both of them and somehow kept it going straight.
Oh man. What a drive for Dovchenko. He won't be able to capture 2nd, but he will survive, and I think that's the biggest point of it all. As the lap cars continue to go at it, Brewer in front of Solage in the 95 car, and they'll be up in the front, but no stopping Kyle Clenworth still in this race, as we'll come down to the final 33 until we get to the final 50 here from Homestead. And Dovchenko, again, attempt in, attempt out to catch up to the 73 car, and still hasn't been able to break free. Marcos Tisera is behind by at least half a second, so no worries for right now. Again, it's all the lap cars that are in the middle of this. Brian Saucier will find his way down low. He is also a lap behind the leaders, and so he'll give Dovchenko a little bit of a hard time into turn 1.
Yeah, this field has massively spread out since the start of this race, and it's a fight out there right now, that's for sure.
Well, I don't think you'd like to be in the position of Roden Eftink at the moment, because with all these lap cars in the front, you got to make sure you pierce your way through them, spearhead the effort to try and clutch up to Kyle Clenworth, who is still free now by over 3.5 seconds back to turn 1 and 2 on the racetrack. And again, all that lost momentum, just trying to ride the bottom of the speedway. Here is another shot lost to get back around one of the lap cars. Mourani in that bright green IR18 gets down to the bottom. No avail there. And so it will help in the overall context of staying ahead of Dovchenko for sure, but it won't help in catching up to the 37, or at least trying to make that a proper fight.
Yeah, it definitely will not help in that situation. It'll be a tough fight for the rest of this race, and I mean, Klenworth is just so much faster than everyone else. He's 5/10 faster than F-Tink right now, that he's just, every single lap he pulls away and just keeps on pulling that gap, and there's no stopping Kyle Klenworth right now.
So Klenworth up in control, F-Tink in second, Dovchenko third, Tisera running fourth, Matt Brewer, who is that first car lap down, he sits comfortably inside the top 5. And just to give you another scope of how big the attrition level has been tonight from virtual Homestead Miami, you look at the top 10, see where they all started this race. Only one, and that's Kyle Klenworth, the race leader, started inside the top 5. Everybody behind him from 2nd to 10th place, they started either 10th or worse. The second best starter in this field in that top 10 group is Roden F-Tink in second, who started right on the edge of the top 10. So everybody has had to work their way through the field. A lot of that because of the big crashes. The biggest mover inside the top 10, Mourani in 8th place, who started 32nd on the grid and is a lap down currently. So Daniel, that's just a good scope again, let alone the amount of cars that are on the lead lap, only 4 of them, as opposed to 37 when we started this race on lap number 1. It's been a big shunt and a huge adjustment for the field. Right now, the mindset is survival.
It is most definitely survival right now, as we see another dive for position. As Saucier going to dive down the inside of Mourani there. And he's just going to, I think he's going to get that position.
Fight for 8th place. Again, these guys are on the same lap, so they can fend for position. This is right in front of Dovchenko. I think he's maybe a bit nervous seeing this right up ahead in the car length, and a car brushes the outside wall up the road, but no harm, no foul. Here comes Mourani, fight back down low, swing to the inside in turn 3. Saucier will maintain the middle. It has been the best overall defensive line we've seen tonight, where you run that middle groove, you kind of run up near the boards at the exit of the corner where you have that really long exit, and then you're just able to carry all that speed off the progressive banking onto these long 4-degree banked straightaways. And Mourani with no dice there in 1 and 2. Here comes Dovchenko to pierce through the middle to the inside. And all the way at the back, Sebastian Kinder, who is in that group, fighting with Mourani and Saucier for gain track position a lap down, just kind of keenly watching what's going on.
Indeed he is. It's seems like a big fight out there as they go back to battle, as Dovchenko gets by both of them, and now they're back scrapping for position, changing each and every lap. This is the best fight on track right now, as, well, here go down the inside of Dovchenko, trying to unlap himself from 3rd place.
Playing that bit of a battle, that balance between fighting hard with the lead lap car of Dovchenko while also making sure a failed attempt at getting by will not reel back in Mourani or Sebastian Kinder and make that a 3-way proper fight for 8th place. And again, a reminder to these drivers and to you watching here on GreenFlagTV that if you are a lap down, 2 laps down, 3 laps down, you can still fight with the lead lap cars. There is no rule against that. It is free reign and it's free for all. You just take as much as you can. However, if you are 3 or more laps down on the racetrack, actually 4 or more laps down, then that's that margin of you can't really fight with them anymore. You got to be courteous. You got to give them back and give them the track position. That also applies to the final 10 laps of this race. So assuming we go green, assuming we get to there in a relatively calm manner, those guys who are 3 or more laps down, they cannot let themselves keep up the fight with those lead lap cars. They got to peer out of the way, they got to find a lane to be slower and make sure that those predictable leading cars will be able to make their way by without any huge trouble. It's a way to avoid big time drama from lead lap cars and lap down machines. If you kind of remember, if you're a big NASCAR fan, you'll remember a couple years ago here at Homestead, Noah Gragson was leading this race. It looked like he was going to walk away with the victory, and then there was a lap car in front, slow on the outside, and Gragson just rammed him in the middle of the corner, and that in turn created a late race restart and took him out of the race in contention for the win. So the last thing that any of these drivers want, if they're in this top 4 on the lead lap, is to encounter a big scuffle with the lap cars and be taken out as long as they've gone and as long as they've survived.
you definitely don't want that, as it'll ruin pretty much any chance you have at really doing anything for the rest of this race. It's been a long race. Just want to keep it on the track and keep it going.
So 69 laps to go here from Homestead Miami, and Clenworth predictably has extended his gap back to road, and F. Tinketh now sits at 5.5 seconds on the racetrack. Beautiful sounds and looks. These IR-18s still ripping around this gorgeous 1.5 miles down in South Florida. I mean, look at the rest of the schedule for season 14 of the VOR IndyCar Series, Daniel. And like we said at the top of the show, dominated by oval racing. Only 2 road courses on the schedule, at Indianapolis on the road course, and later in the season in race number 7, at Road Atlanta. So everything else is either a short track oval or ovals just about as large or larger in the case of Indianapolis than this Homestead Miami Speedway. If you look down at the schedule right now, are there any other tracks that could potentially be the most unique, maybe throw a huge wild card apart from that IMS Indianapolis 500 that'll be double points?
Well, I think the Milwaukee Mile will be the most interesting one. While it is shaped in a lot like New Hampshire, it's concrete and not pavement. So it's a very unique surface on that track. It's basically New Hampshire plus Nashville. And it's one of the most interesting tracks on the schedule, and it's 250 laps. That's 25 more than at New Hampshire.
That's a long race, and New Hampshire still is a long race as well, 225 laps around the Magic Mile in the Northeast. And as we continue the season, plenty of other tracks that have either been on the schedule before or are new additions in terms of their placement. Nashville Super Speedway was great. The road course at Indy right before the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Texas has been a big key race in the middle of the group, another 1.5 miles. That's pretty interesting to drive with these IR-18s. I think the biggest curveball is going to be Road Atlanta for sure. We've seen different road courses over the long tenure of this series so far. Last season we had 3 at Watkins Glen, at Montreal, and then we raced at Portland. But Road Atlanta, not a typical track you'd see with Indy cars. It's usually a sports car town, sports car racetrack, but that'll be a lot of fun when we get there. And the key indicator is race 7 of 9, so it's going to play a big role in the championship fight as well.
Oh, it definitely will. It'll be the curveball of all curveballs. And it's apparently there's also sprint formats, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, producer telling us there will be a sprint race. So cool format there for Road Atlanta, and should shake up the action for sure. Those road racers will have a bit more on their hands as we take on that track later on in the season. You are watching just several of the fights on the racetrack. Not very plentiful here at Homestead, given the amount of attrition, but it is Solej in his number 95 car with Marcos Teixeira, who is one of those several cars still on the lead lap, and Bryce Saucier. So again, the lead lap competition just kind of sprinkling in the middle of these guys that are keeping their race alive, or at least hoping that a yellow flies to keep their race intact and a chance for the victory. Solej will charge up high. That's the closest I've seen anyone near the outside wall, barely getting through Teixeira, but can't do it off of turn 2.
Yep, it's a bit of a scrape of the wall there, just pushing the limits of that car, trying to get as much to just get those lap backs. And it's going to be real hard to get those laps back now that the field has spread out as much as it has. The rest of this race, I think, I don't see much contact happening. I think these are the guys who've been the cleanest all race. It'll be a tough fight to get to the end. And I mean, you can see you just get those minor adjustments and those minor bumps and scraping the walls. It's just so hard to keep these cars going straight right now.
And again, our longest green flag run had happened midway through, and right around 50 to 55 laps is that marker of the fuel window where a lot of them said, hey, we're not going to keep on going. We're going to run this thing dry. Let's come down pit road. And that's usually at the time where the tire cliff comes around. I like to say the tire cliff because it really does feel that way. You run on fresh tires, you feel unstoppable for a while, and then as you continue to run across speedways like this that are as tough as they are on the tires, more than a lot of the others that we'll see over the season 14 campaign, you reach that cliff where all of a sudden, from one lap to the other, it feels solid, it feels okay, and then one lap where it just feels horrible. Whether the right rear tire goes away first, whether the right front does, or whether the other tires just stop giving that leeway to you as a driver, that cliff happens, it falls off considerably, and then it's more so about managing the condition of the race car via the weight jacker or just with the overall driving style and the different lines you use right before you come down pit road. So I figure it's going to be a big thing of conversation, especially for Fyodor Dovzhenko, who is one of those singular cars, Daniel, that's still on the lead lap, that was on that huge undercut strategy earlier. Watch out, almost 3 wide as one of those lap cars was letting them by. F-Tink right on the bottom. This will be the fight for second in turn 1.
Yeah, but Dovzhenko is reaching the end of his stint, so he's going to have to come in sooner or later. And, well, he's going to have to make a splash and go or save fuel, as we see, I believe that was Seegers hitting the pit road, so his stint's done. Well, Dovzhenko is probably going to try and save fuel to get on the main strategy, and get to the end at lap 50.
Yeah, he just needs a couple more. As long as he can get to lap 200, which is in 5 laps time, if he comes down pit road, then he is sure to make it unto the end of this race. So all in all, may just work out for Dovzhenko at the end of this one, being on that different strategy, but just making sure he can at least file through on one more stop. And it may be easier for him to consider because he's on lap 51 now as he crosses the start-finish line. The leaders in Clenworth, F-Tink, and even a bit of Marcos Di Sera, they are now 36 laps into their stint, so it'll take them a little longer to process their time in and out of pit road. The overcut has worked, but really, Daniel, the last thing you want to do is hit as late as possible and not have enough time with how fast these cars are to circle back around and cycle through. Now, when you only have 4 cars on the lead lap, it makes it much easier for sure, but just want to make sure that you avoid any catastrophic mistakes on this final stop.
Yeah, that's definitely the difference here. You're not going to want to make any of those mistakes and ruin your race so close to the end after all of the attrition that this race has had. We're only, I think, 14 cars on the track right now, something like that. And, like, it's going to be very interesting to see if Dovzhenko can make it past. He's getting real close. I think he might be able to do it.
On lap 198, just needs 2 more to have it cut at 50 laps to go, in which he will have exactly 50 laps to spare on a tank of fuel, to which he's gone this long so far. So he understands he can make it past, but maybe he's just holding out for a potential opportunity for those 2 leaders up ahead of him to come down pit road, and maybe he overcuts them for as long as he can do it. He's not really saving right now, so it's not a sense of whether he can try and extend the fuel as long as possible. He's running 100% like everyone else is. It's just a matter of when does he reach the pit lane. The answer is going to be right now. In turn 3, he'll go down to the access lane, and that Pepsi IR18 will find its way to a stop. Try to avoid a pit road speeding penalty. Hard on the brakes, conservative entry, and that's all you need at this juncture of the race to 50 laps to go.
Yep, he's going to have to, I think he's going to have to save a lap or 2, but he can probably do it. So I think everyone else can make it to the end from this point forward. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the only one who's really in doubt is Jaco Seegers, who came down a bit earlier. But, I mean, you can extend to about 54, 55 laps, as we've seen throughout this stint. So it'll be interesting to see. Kinder is going really long on his stint.
He's right in that same ballpark as Dovzhenko, 53 complete green flag laps on his stint. Same deal for the car behind him, fighting for position 8/10 behind Sebastian Dufresne, his number 78 car, also on what's going to be 53 to 54 laps on his set of Firestone Firehawks and that tank of fuel. So they will extend it maybe at least 1 more lap. Should expect them to hit pit road in this next several. And of course, like Dovzhenko and like the rest of this field, that 1 stop is going to get you to the end no matter what on fuel. No worries about saving and no worries about trying to extend farther than you need to. Kinder will roll down the back straightaway. There he is, typical entry to pit road. Dufresne will stay out the extra lap. Kinder in this time from the top 10.
Interested to see all the different pit strategies change up how this race is run. It's going to be a short fight to the end here. Basically everyone can make it to the end from this point, so it's going to be full gas to the end, and everyone is going to be making as many moves as they can to try and catch the leaders, get back on the lead lap, or in the case of Kyle Clenworth, just hold on to that gap until the end and try and just stay in front like he has been all night long.
Oh, hey, Daniel, I'll ask you this, because Kenneth is ahead by 9.1 seconds. It's a very big gap back to Roden Eftink. But if you're Eftink running second with 47 laps to go, you understand that an alternative strategy is more than likely what's going to win you this race if it's able to get you ahead of that 37 car with enough time to stay up ahead come the checkered flag. Do you undercut or do you overcut? How do you play this around the 37 car who has so far dominated this race up until this point?
I really do not know what to do in this situation because he's so much faster than everyone else. His fastest lap is like a good 3-4 tenths faster than any other car behind him, and he just consistently lays down much faster laps that I really don't think there is any strategy to get ahead. Like, you just have to hope for a mistake at this point.
And mind you, Kenneth is running a tenth a lap faster than the second place car in Eftink. He just last set at 25.846. Roden Eftink crossed the line for a 25.897, but the previous lap, it was a full tenth of a second in difference in favor of Kenneth. So the 37 car maintaining his 9.3 second gap back to the second place car. And Dovchenko, who had been the earlier drivers to come down pit road, he's now a lap down, but he's in P7. And he just about got by Murani in the number 88 car, so a gain spot there. Good time to gain, just about 4 tenths quicker than Solid right now, who's a couple seconds up the road, so will be time before Dovchenko gets there, but plenty of opportunities in this race for him to do so. Here's the race leader on the pit road with 43 laps to go. Dicera will take the race lead, and Eftink comes down on the same lap.
Yep, it seems like Eftink is just trying to finish second, get as much points as he can, because, well, this is a massive opportunity for everyone who's still running to gain massive amounts of points on everyone else, because, well, there's only going to be 14, 15 cars that get classified.
And how long does Dicera go on this set of Firestone Firehawks? He went longer the last time around, and it didn't really work. Kenneth in and out on an 8-second flat pit stop, 9.3 for Roden Eftink and the rookie driver, who's going to get a great result regardless as long as this race stays the way it is on strategy. Here are a couple of more coming in. That's Murani on pit road. It looks like Bryce Saucier has entered pit road. He's out on the back straightaway, and several others are in. Solage is in. Matt Brewer is in and out. Anthony Heitzma is still needing to come down pit road from 5th. And there's the rest of the pack as they settle in this final pit stop with 40 laps to go.
Just 40 laps to go. This race has flown by ever since we got out of those cautions. It'll be interesting to see if, well, I think we are going to be able to beat the time limit, but we only have about 40 laps to go. That's not a long time to around this track. That's like 5, 10, 15 minutes. So the field doesn't have a lot of time to make those moves and get up to the better spots. It's going to be a fun couple more laps to go.
It's going to be fun here for third place. Dovchenko right in front of Eftink again with that undercut strategy. It gets the 69 car ahead. However, Eftink has the better tires. He's got the better laps. So far, the rookie driver will try to peek to the inside. He'll stay up high in turns 1 and 2 and right in the same line as Dovchenko. So they will even out. Lap car ahead may just leave them by. But Eftink with a chance to steal away a podium spot inside the final 39. And how much defense does Dovchenko have him in at the end?
Oh, he has to defend hard. The tire difference is going to matter a lot when it comes to the end of this race. Like, he's going to have to defend like a madman and just hope that he can stay ahead as Dicera comes into the pits. And so now it's back to the top 4 as they were. Huge
point there as that was Donskoy who was right in front. It's a lap car that is 75 laps beneath. He is letting them by, but as he was swerving up in 1 and 2, dealt a bit of that dirty air to Eftink's number 73, and that could seal a deal inside the final 38 if Eftink cannot continue to press forward. Here's the fight for 5th. Jaco Seegers in the 98 on Matt Brewer in turn 2, and right behind Bryce Saucier is several seconds back, so he won't have an impact. Near contact as Seegers got to the rear wing of Brewer in 4. Big lunge there. It's getting to that time where every position matters, so we're going to see a lot more big moves from this point forward. Onboard look with Seegers as he's just that half second back from the 14er Matt Brewer. And what we've noticed over these slight groups of cars, Daniel, that are 2, maybe 3 cars deep. If you make a move and you falter, if you make a mistake on the inside or the outside and you slow up, it costs you so much time. I mean, we saw it with Jordan Hale making that slight block earlier in this race. That slowed up the car behind for at least a full 2 to 3 laps before that car was able to get around, and then Hale ended up with the penalty. But in this case of Matt Brewer and Jaco Seegers, they're in a place in which Brewer has the fresher tires, so Seeger may have wasted that opportunity there at trying to get by the 14 car, because Brewer is back into the sunset, riding by. Now 1.2 seconds between those two machines.
That's a pretty insurmountable gap, I'd say, so far. I mean, Seegers might also have to pit again. Like, he pitted before just on the edge of the fuel window, so he's probably going to have to start saving fuel if he wants to not have to make a splash and go, which will basically ruin his entire race so far.
Yeah, you're right. 34 laps to go. He's on lap 22 of his stint. That's going to be 56 total laps that he's going to have to spend under green in a chance to stay afloat. There is 5 seconds that separate him and the next car in line of Bryce Saucier, but that gap can easily shrink down if Seegers is going to be saving. And if he's going to run it dry all the way to the end, he's going to have to pray that the racing gods give him enough drops in the tank to make it into the checkered flag range. So Marcos Teixeira, the 86 car who had overcut for so long, he pitted 6 laps ago, so he will give up his track position. He'll be back in 4th and will remain with just 4 cars on the lead lap in the final 33. F-Tink is still 3/10 behind Dovchenko, so still a viable opportunity for the 73 to make inroads and have that runner-up spot when we get to the checkered flag. He's maintaining the gap. He was nearly just about a couple hundredths of a second faster, and now he's got a good shot in turn 1. Fight down to the inside. F-Tink is there. Can't put in the throttle wash of the dirty air, but he's there.
He's there, and he's going to try and make that move. It's going to be tough. Here he goes. Dive to the bottom. And there he goes. He's into the position. And I think that's all she wrote, and he's going to run away. Although Dovchenko seems to stay there, but the tire difference is so much at this point in the race that it's probably going to be real hard for Dovchenko to just stay in there. And yep, he's starting to fall back now.
Tire difference of 8 laps in favor of F-Tink, who pitted right about 12 laps ago. And Dovchenko, who rolled down a pit road 20 laps right in that moment, 20 laps ago in this race. So Dovchenko should get a considerate top 5 finish anyway inside the final 30, but I maybe thought that was the one to get away with Roden F-Tink, who will take away position number 2. There is at least 2.5 seconds that separate Teixeira running 4th and this running Dovchenko, who you're looking at from 3rd place, and that tire difference is 12 laps in favor of Teixeira. So possible more time for Teixeira to make inroads and be the last driver to spoil onto the podium as we get down to the ending of this race with Clentworth up in the front.
Yeah, just a big gap change. He's starting to chip into that gap. He lost a bit on lap 220, but he gained all that time back up. He's starting to hunt down Dovchenko in front of him, and he's going to try and get a podium with 29 laps remaining in this race.
Now it's all about whether he can get up to Dovchenko first and whether, like F-Tink, can he complete the pass? Does he have enough of the time left in this race to pull out a big-time move and make it a 3rd place effort for car number 86, who rolled off on this grid in 13th place, as now 3 of the top 4 have started this one from 10th or worse on the starting grid. And it will be a favorable opening race for not only Teixeira, but of course the rest of the running group, including Clentworth, who will lead the most laps and will get the extra points for leading the most laps. I think it's also good stuff for Dovchenko, F-Tink, Teixeira, because either they have spent some time at the front of this field leading for maybe a lap or 2, and in that case, you gain that extra point. So not only are you gaining all of those benefits from just staying out of the racetrack and performing well, you stay out long enough to lead laps on strategy, you get that extra benefit, bit more of a buffer as we step into New Hampshire 2 weeks from now.
Yep, points in the season as short as this are what matters most. You want to score as many points as possible with these races that have so much attrition that it's really going to matter so much right now that the points, it's going to be tough when it comes to the end of this race.
So we'll look there with Fyodor Dovchenko, car number 69 running 3rd. Teixeira still about 2 seconds back. And you see him right in the background. That black and red IR18 still has 2 lap cars to fend his way around. and it's the likes of Katie Polak and Bryce Saucier. Two different scenario cars. Polak is 3 laps down, and then Saucier is that third car 1 lap down. So it won't be easy in any sense of the imagination to get around the 07, because he has the right to fight for position no matter who it is trying to get around him. So the great onboard look here of Dovchenko, and take a look at how he rolls around this Homestead Miami Speedway. Fantastic sounds from this IR-18 as it rips around the 1.5 miles with just now 17 laps to go from South Florida. Kenneth, Bueno, and Daniel Brouchard with you here on GreenFlagTV. Howie Burroughs bringing you the sights and sounds around this virtual racetrack as Clenworth continues to dominate. It is now 11 seconds between himself and Rodin F-Tink. Fyodor Dovchenko, who we're riding on board with for that entire sequence, still running third, about 1.5 seconds shy of the 73 car. And this potential battle, it's potential right now, Daniel, because it's been tough for Marcos Di Sera. He's got the fresh tires, but it's Bryce Saucier, the lap car, who has played a big role in all of this. He stayed up ahead, has dealt the dirty air, so in turn, Di Sera has lost time. And with 17 to go, with how quick this race has progressed under green, I don't know if the 86 car has enough punch left to get to Dovchenko and have it be a proper fight.
Yeah, it's going to be real tough for him to get to Dovchenko, let alone get by literally everyone involved. It's going to be a tough fight, and I with the fact that these two are fighting hammer and tongs and swapping positions at every corner, I just don't think he's going to be able to get by these two until this fight is settled, and I don't think it will be settled to the very end.
And even when Di Sera tried to get around Bryce Saucier, it was tough. He wasn't able to really clear that car. And now that Jocko Seegers just got passed, that is for the wave around spot should we get a yellow inside these final 15 laps. Although it is looking unlikely at this juncture of the race, Seegers will play up top. Di Sera trying to puncture his way through the inside. But again, it's that right there. Sitting side by side off the corner, you're not clearing them easily. That is, in turn, what's going to lose you more time on a bottom lane that has shaved off a lot of the consistency. There's a car on the outside wall. That is Shabox Murani, who is trapped up there. He may come to a stop. And will that bring a pivotal yellow flag? Inside 14 to go. He is still rolling 2 laps down. And Clenworth just said car on the outside wall. He's letting the whole field know And Daniel, is that another hardware issue? And there's the yellow flag.
That looks like a hardware issue. It seems like it is. I think his wheel's gone, but his pedals and shifter are still working. That is so odd.
And this will change everything. Kyle Clenworth, dominant, performing all night long, will now have to bring this field under a restart. And this is the official cause of the yellow. It's Anthony Heitzma, so it's not even the slow-rolling Murani who will bring it out. Heitzma, the rookie, in 3 and 4. He is all by himself on the racetrack. He crosses the seam. And it's difficult to tell just how much this car unsettles. Daniel, I think we might have just had another hardware issue. This car just straight lines to the wall. Take a look.
Yep, that's a hardware failure right there. That is so odd. We've had 3 of them in one race, which I think that might be a record for GreenFlagTV.
Safe to say, Daniel, this field has not been getting the kind part of this race. iRacing has given them a lot to deal with. And that means Julian Altena, Murani, and now Heitzma out of this race just from a couple of incidents dealing with hardware mechanical issues. So the gremlins continue, and the race leaders are in long enough run for them to consider this their final stop. Clenworth will take his final set. So will F-Tink. Tisera will fight up to third as Dovchenko will try and end up off pit road in third. And I think Tisera, Daniel, may have just gotten Dovchenko. Fight off the lane, and Tisera's got it. Oh, no, Dovchenko just barely beat him.
Oh, yeah, that is so close. Well, no, I think the two of them were like having a bit of a fight over who actually won that battle. So I think Dovchenko just said, you know what, you take it. You were working hard.
Yeah, so Tisera thought he had it, and then Dovchenko pulls ahead, and then he says, psych, yeah, I'm going to let you through. So Tisera does end up gaining that spot on pit road. A silver lining and a huge caution that comes out with just 11 laps to go. And in this VOR IndyCar Series, playing to iRacing rules and to IndyCar rules, there are no green-white checkers in this format. So if we get a yellow late enough in this race, the pace car will parade the field around to the checkered flag, and we will not have a restart. But for now, we will. 10 laps to go. Clenworth in control. Does he hold on from a chaotic race? Green flag in the air.
4 wide.
And that's in the middle where Dovchenko is. Matt Brewer has caught his lap back, and so has Bryce Saucier. So it is a full-on free-for-all inside the top 5. Saucier down the bottom, shut down by Tisera. Here comes Dovchenko. Fight up top. 9 laps to go for Clenworth.
And F-Tink is right on him. The two of them were just equal on that previous lap. It's going to be tight, but I think Clenworth is just going to, as he usually does, pull away and just able to break that draft, and I think he's going to be gone.
But the last time by, F-Tink was a 10th full faster than Clenworth, so is there some saving gasp in it for the rookie driver trying to score his first win in his first start? Clenworth will hang tight, 0.3 of a second, down to 7 laps to go, and behind them, no dice in the top 5. Brewer going to maintain 5th, Dovchenko stays in 4th.
It is down to the wire here, and it'll be a fight to the end. I think it's going to come down to just who has able to keep that car in position. I think Clenworth, yeah, he's starting to edge away. I think this is Clenworth, and like the ebb and flow of the gap, but I think Clenworth has pulled just enough as to where that draft won't be that much of an issue, and he can just start pulling away by keeping that car on the road and just hitting his marks and getting around.
Clenworth just needs those perfect laps that set him apart in the opening stage of this race to keep ahead of the rookie driver who is charging for the win. Marcos Tisera may not have a comfortable ride in the final 6 because Dovchenko is there within 0.2 of a second. And now there's no conversation, Daniel, about strategy. You're on the same playing field with the same race cars in the same stage on a rubbered racetrack.
Yep, it's all about trying to make as much time as you can and just psyching your opponent out and just trying to get around him. Dovchenko just cannot seem to get by Tisera or get even close enough to even make a move right now.
It's a matter, Daniel, of trying to decide your lane. Some drivers have preferred trying to make passes up top. Some have attempted the bottom despite how difficult it has been. And it's going to be the lane of choice for Dovzhenko. Tisera forced out of the way from just a tight race car. And Dovzhenko takes away third. 5 laps to go.
Make that 4 to go, actually. But it's coming down to the wire, and yet Klenworth is pulled almost a second. He just has to hit those marks across those final 4 laps, and he'll take that first win of the season in a very big points lead.
Crucial point, if a yellow flag comes out now with 3 laps to go, this race is official no matter what. We will not extend this race past our 250 lap distance. Klenworth ahead by 0.6 of a second. F-Tink behind in P2. Dovzhenko hanging on from the pressure mounting in the rearview mirror from Marcos Tisera for the top 3 spot. 2 laps to go, 3 miles left from Homestead Miami.
The big story tonight was tire wear, and Kyle Klenworth has just conquered and dominated all night long. He's faster than everyone else, and while they seem to be evening out, he's pulled enough of a gap where F-Tink just can't even get closer as he comes around to take the white flag. 1 lap to go.
White flag in the air from Homestead Miami. And Kyle Klenworth, who found that late yellow giving him some pressure, but instead has risen up to the challenge, will stay ahead by 0.6 of a second, and 2 more corners left to finalize his first win in the VOR IndyCar Series. The most dominant driver of the night will stand tall in South Florida. Checkered flag. Kyle Klenworth comes away with his first career VOR IndyCar Series win.
What a race. May not be the most exciting, but it had storylines throughout. And we were pretty much on edge that entire last stint there until that caution came out.
But it is the typical dominator of the race who will not get it stolen away from him. Kyle Klenworth comes away with the win from Homestead. And that's what's going to show you the difference between himself and the rest of the pack. 223 laps led of the 250. That is possibly more than 80% of the race. And a well-deserved celebration. Kyle Klenworth, VOR IndyCar Series winner from Miami.
He just had the measure of the field all night. He was faster than everyone else. He was just able to be that much quicker by that much of a percentage, and that's all that matters. But Roden F-Tink in his first ever start gets a P2. That's pretty impressive.
Got to give him a lot of credit for the strategy call he had put forth in this race and surviving the melee that happened in the first half of the event. F-Tink will come away with a career best second in his first race, and Fyodor Dovzhenko walks away with a very hard-fought third-place effort. Marcos Tisera did not have enough to get right up to him and make it a fight in the final 3 laps. So Klenworth continues to celebrate here from Homestead, Miami. Let's see if we can get a look at our full unofficial results after the 600 kilometers here from virtual South Florida. Kyle Klenworth, the winner. Roden F-Tink survives for second. Fyodor Dovzhenko brings his number 69 car to third. Marcos Tisera comes away with fourth with Matt Brewer, who got that wave around from that final yellow, a top 5 effort. And Kostek Solic in the 95 in P6. Bryce Saucier ends up in P7. Jaco Seegers in 8th place with Sebastian Kinder in the 9th spot. And Sebastian Dufresne, car number 78, will survive for a top 10.
Last few finishers in the field are Katie Polak coming home with 11. Pim van Gestel recovers to 12th. And Sazwak Spranyi is the last car to finish this race. Everyone else below this DNF'd at some point.
And it was a rough going for a good majority of this field. Plenty of disconnections and crashes from hardware issues. Anthony Heitzman, the most recent. Murani with trouble entering turn 4. Julian Altena was the first incident of hardware issues. Gary Lovern as well, big crash. Jordan Hale, a penalty late, and then just quit the race. Michael Deitch, Dan Inch. Obviously, a lot of them not seeing the light of day, or at least the light of the stadium lights here at Homestead, Miami. And 21st on back, all of them involved in big crashes. 21st for Aiden Millward, Andres Vince, Ryan Riza in the 23rd spot, McKinney from 24th, and the list continues. You've got big-time names who survived at the first point of this race. Luis Nunez, Vitor Guilherme, Vogelzang in 29th, Edson Santos in 30th, and then the final 7 that goes all the way to Lucas Santos among those first drivers that were eliminated from the race.